Hey guys, tonight we're not braving the rough waters of pirate life. No splintery ships, no sunburnt sailors, no parrot loudly announcing things nobody asked it to. Nope, tonight we're stepping into something far more profound, far more mysterious, and, honestly, far more dramatic than any pirate raid could ever be. The story of how one boy's sacrifice changed the fate of an entire kingdom. But before we set foot in ancient palaces, dusty marketplaces, and landscapes trembling under tyranny, take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy these late-night journeys into history, faith, and the quiet miracles tucked between the pages of time. And go ahead and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. Somehow, it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And let's be honest. Stories about courage, sacrifice, and divine intervention hit different at 2 a.m. when the room is quiet and your heart is just awake enough to feel everything more deeply. Now dim those lights, turn on a fan for that soft, steady white noise breeze. Settle into your blankets, get comfortable, and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because imaginary rats are out for your toes, but because tonight's story may give you chills in the best possible way. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered how much impact a single person, someone young, someone ordinary, someone overlooked, can truly have? Have you ever thought about the quiet bravery required to stand against a kingdom drowning in oppression, cruelty, or despair? And how sometimes the most powerful moments in history aren't delivered by armies or kings, but by a single heart willing to give everything? Tonight, we're stepping into one of those moments. We'll travel back to a kingdom suffocated by a tyrant, where fear ruled the streets, suffering seeped into every household, and the people whispered prayers they weren't sure anyone was listening to. A world where hope seemed fragile, where injustice felt unshakable, until a boy, armed with nothing but faith and a willingness to sacrifice, stepped forward. No armies, no weapons, just courage. This is a story woven with pain, with wonder, with divine precision, and with the kind of heroism that doesn't wear armor or ride horses. It's a story about how light can enter the darkest places through the smallest crack, and how God can use a single life to turn the tide for thousands. But don't worry, we're not rushing into battle scenes or heavy theology. We're drifting, slowly, like lantern light spreading across a quiet night, letting each part of the story unfold gently, peacefully, with room to breathe. Tonight, we'll explore the oppressive kingdom and its suffering people, the cruel ruler who believed he was untouchable, the boy whose heart held more strength than the mightiest warriors, the sacrifice that shook the kingdom, and the divine plan that turned tragedy into liberation. So settle in. Let your thoughts soften. Let the noise of the day fade away. Let your heart open to a story about courage, faith, and the unseen ways God moves through the world. Tonight, we're not sailing stormy seas. We're stepping into a kingdom on the edge of despair and watching how one brave boy helped rewrite its destiny. Ready? Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Kingdom Under the Oppressive King. The kingdom looked peaceful from a distance. Sunlit hills, quiet homes, winding paths worn smooth by generations of ordinary life. But anyone who stepped inside its dusty streets felt the truth immediately. The kingdom lived beneath a shadow. Not the shadow of clouds or mountains, but of a cruel and iron-fisted king whose power reached into every corner of daily existence. His palace rose above the city like a massive stone giant, rough, towering, and impossibly cold. Built from huge slabs of dark rock, its walls climbed so high that they blocked the morning sun from touching the marketplace below. Windows were narrow slits, more like watchful eyes than openings for light. The palace felt less like a home and more like a fortress meant to intimidate, a constant reminder that the king intended to rule not only bodies, but hearts. At its entrance, two enormous statues carved in the king's likeness flanked the gate, each one chiseled with exaggerated majesty, each one portraying him as larger than life. To the villagers, the statues seemed to stare down with silent demand. Bow, obey, fear. In the dusty heart of the marketplace, where merchants once laughed and children once raced between stalls, the atmosphere had changed. Now, a forced stillness settled over the crowd each time the king's soldiers marched through. Armor clanked, spears glinted. The people dropped to their knees not out of reverence, but out of fear. They bowed low, not toward heaven, but toward the king who insisted on being worshipped as a god. Mothers clutched their children close. Traders lowered their eyes. No one dared stand tall. No one dared speak a word of defiance. Even the air felt heavy, as though the kingdom itself had forgotten how to breathe freely. From the balcony of his palace, the king watched his trembling subjects. His robe swept behind him like a trail of storm clouds. His face held no warmth, only the cold pride of a ruler who believed his power was absolute. He demanded devotion. He demanded worship, and he punished anyone who doubted his claim of divinity. But despite the fear he commanded, something else stirred quietly beneath the surface. A whisper, a hope, a truth the king could neither sense nor silence. Oppression can force bodies low, but it cannot fully extinguish the spark of the human spirit. Among the townspeople, secretly passed from ear to ear, was the story of a boy who did not fear the king's claim to godhood, a boy whose faith rested not in earthly power, but in divine truth. The people did not know his name yet, only that something unusual had begun, something that made their hearts beat a little faster, not from fear, but from a feeling they had not tasted in years: hope. But the king did not sense this change. He saw only the bowed heads, the trembling hands, the silence he mistook for devotion. Standing behind his stone balustrade, he believed his control was perfect. He believed no force existed that could challenge his rule. Below, the marketplace told another story. Dust rose softly around the kneeling crowd as the heat of the day settled in. Lanterns swung gently from wooden stalls. The scent of spices, earth, and sweat drifted through the air. Even in their fear, the townspeople exchanged quiet glances, weary, longing, searching. Because somewhere in the kingdom, beyond the reach of the king's iron fist, divine will was already at work. A single life, quiet, humble, unnoticed by the palace walls, was preparing to shift the balance. A boy whose courage would shake an empire built on fear. And while the king continued to demand worship in the dusty marketplace, unaware of what was coming, the heavens watched the unfolding story with calm certainty. For even the mightiest tyrant cannot stand forever against truth. Chapter 2. The Boy Who Dared to Dream. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, prepare to immerse yourself in a tale so compelling it could almost replace your uncle's long-winded explanations at family gatherings. Imagine, if you will, a kingdom steeped in plight and peculiarities, where the roof always leaks, and the only entertainment is watching the goats graze, and that's only for the truly enthusiastic. Welcome to the era of our charming protagonist, a boy brimming with courage and a sense of humor that would make even the weariest nobleman chuckle. Now, take a moment to get comfy. Perhaps grab a cozy blanket or two, maybe even spoon with a pillow as if it were the last bit of dessert at a feast. Close your eyes, feel the weight of your day beginning to lift, and let's dive deep into a whimsical world. Have you ever pondered how much time a young boy has to spend contemplating the greater truths while simultaneously dodging livestock? Would he rather face a charging camel or his math homework? What if you were asked to negotiate with a stubborn goat? Would that goat hold authority over his household? And if so, Would it demand a throne? You've just woken up in 500 CE, a period more tumultuous than your favorite reality show finale. Conspiracy, sacrifice, and thrilling confrontations await you. As you step out from your humble abode, you find yourself surrounded by a kingdom strapped in unease, teetering on the brink of chaos. The walls whisper tales of a king whose grip on power is as loose as the trousers on a belly dancer after a buffet feast. Picture it. Our young hero stands center stage, bound like a piñata at a birthday party, fate sealed, yet heart racing with unyielding resolve. The crowd is heftier than a basket of dates, each person breathlessly awaiting the drama that unfolds. Trust me, it's about to get wild. You can hear the drums of despair thumping like an overzealous auntie's heart during family trivia night. The tension thickens. The king, a man whose scowl is etched deeper than the wrinkles on your grandmother's face, sits gloriously on his ornate throne. A throne not just of wood, but of expectations and appetites for power. With eyes narrowed as if he forgot his glasses at home, but don't ask him about it, he leans forward. What shall we see today? A display of prowess? An exhibition of hopelessness? Perhaps both. He looks at our young hero. Are we ready for this? Or will someone need a safety net? Or a miracle? In the nick of time, just as you envision an escape plan more elaborate than those homemade contraptions for cleaning the roof, the boy speaks up, voice rising above the mumbles like a cat at a cheese festival. "Oh, noble king, bestow upon us the mercy of courage. Let your arrows fly on the wings of faith." At that moment, the crowd gasps. A ripple of disbelief swells. But what's this? A wave of determination surges through. The atmosphere is electric, a storm. Brewing, but one of hope, not dread. The very stones beneath your feet seem to tremble. History is teetering at the edge of rewriting. Suddenly, proclamations of faith explode like fireworks at a wedding. The people begin to chant, their voices blending into a cacophony of devotion. "We believe in the one true God," it echoes through the marketplace. The king, flustered, almost spills his goblet of grape juice, looking as bewildered as a cat in a bathtub. What? A boy demands faith? A rabble behind him? A mixture of fear and curiosity washes over his face. Shall we not quench their fervor? Do my archers not know when to show restraint? But oh, dear listeners, fate has a delicious sense of irony. Just as the archers prepare their bows, lined up as if waiting for a performance review, there's a sudden gust of wind, as unpredictable as your friend's relationship decisions. The arrows, once destined for doom, slip through the currents like soap sliding across slippery hands. They twist and dance in the air, a whirling dervish of mischief. "Ah!" you gasp, feeling the heartbeat of history thump beneath your feet. Arrows swerve towards the crowd. They whirled like a confused flock of pigeons. And suddenly, a glorious thud erupts. But not upon our courageous boy, no. Other arrows pierce items in the crowd, leaving them all to laugh, cry, or both. The kingdom's despair is shredded like an unfortunate parchment at a drunken scribe's table. The press of the crowd swells, igniting like a furnace of belief and rebellion. People are jumping about, tears streaming down faces, joy, relief, the hilarity of a day that had looked so dismal. Change, my dear friends, was upon them. "Witness!" the boy cries, chest lifted like a rooster in sunlight. "The one above has heard you. The weight of kings can crumble with a single heart that believes. Let us hold each other in faith." He stands there, arms spread like a scarecrow, drawing the collective energy of hope, anthem-like chanting spiraling upward to touch the heavens. And just like that, the steadfast throne of complacency cracks. Disbelief withers under the blazing sun of conviction. The kingdom erupts in exuberance, pacing towards liberation, all in the name of faith. The boy, their unsung hero, gains recognition. leaving us chuckling at the absurdity of a powerful king, now shaken by the unwavering zeal of a single child. As you nestle deeper into your covers, reflect upon this tale, dear listeners. In a world where the outrageous dance together with the ordinary, recognize that sometimes the smallest voices can echo through the ages, reshaping destinies like a gentle breeze flicks a feather. So tonight, as you drift into slumber, ponder, whom do you believe in? And what might flicker into life because of it? Sleep well, dear friends, and dream of heroes, both grand and humble, and the power of a single act igniting countless souls. Would you like to continue on to the next part of our enchanting adventure? Chapter 3. The Boy and the Monk in the Misty Woods. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we embark on a journey deeper than your Monday morning thoughts about the weekend that never seems to come. Imagine this. It's the year 500 CE. You're nestled among the dense, misty woods bordering a kingdom that's teetering on the edge of chaos, much like trying to balance a cup of coffee on a treadmill. Now, dim the lights, get cozy on your favorite pillow, and let us slip into the ancient world. You find yourself wandering through a backdrop that feels like it could use a bit more magic. Have you ever wondered if your life purpose was hidden just a little deeper than the last cookie in the jar? Or maybe you ponder what the air smelled like back then. Was it more like sandalwood or the lingering scent of roasted chestnuts? And what about daily shenanigans? Like how many times you'd have to convince Mother Nature that you didn't need your grubby feet in the river to bathe? Spoiler alert, back then, washing up probably involved a little splash, a lot of laughter, and the noble art of dodging a stray goat. Here you are, standing by the edge of the ancient forest, an enormous expanse where the branches intertwine like a group of gossiping neighbors. You are neither a peasant nor a nobleman, but a curious boy on a quest for the ultimate truth. Your heart races as you tread carefully, dodging tree roots that seem to want to trip you up like they're in on some cosmic joke. You're deep in thought. How many secrets does this forest hold? Could they rival the number of excuses you'll give for that broken pot back home? Your destination? The secluded dwelling of a pious monk. You've heard whispers from the village about his wisdom, so profound that listening to him speak leaves echoes in your heart long after. Perhaps he knows how to snatch the truth from the jaws of life and serve it like a warm plate of honeyed figs. As you venture deeper, the air thickens, filled with the sweet scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The atmosphere is alive with the sounds of chirping birds, a distant rustle as if the trees themselves are sharing secrets. You pause, debating whether to shout encouragement to them, because who wouldn't need a little affirmation now and then? Hey, awesome tree, keep it up. But you settle for a chuckle instead, chuckling at your own absurdity. Eventually, after what feels like a small eternity, and at least one imaginative escape involving a dragon, you finally spot a thatched roof peeking through the shrubs. Could it be? Yes, it's the monk's abode. You take a deep breath, the tension easing like your overcooked stew back home. As you approach, the setting sun casts a warm, golden hue, making the monk's hut seem almost otherworldly, like it was designed to host only extraordinary conversations. The door creaks open, and there stands the monk, his beard white as winter, and smile bright enough to light the way for a lost sheep. He looks at you, and with a twinkle in his eye says, "Ah, the seeker of truths. What brings you here, young one? Surely you aren't just gathering firewood." You chuckle nervously. "No, wise monk. I'm on a quest for wisdom, possibly including how to avoid chores when I get home." With a gentle wave of his hand, he motions for you to enter. As you step inside, the smell of herbs envelops you. Basil, perhaps. Or was it more of a mystical forest blend? It instantly ignites a sense of comfort, like settling down with a soft cat after a long day of dodging chores. You sit on a rug, its fibers tickling your legs, and look around at the walls lined with scrolls and odd trinkets. It looks like the waiting room of a wizard's lounge, where secrets are traded like currency. Now, The monk begins. What truths are you seeking? Some want fortune, others wisdom, and a few just want to know how to make a decent goat stew. You stammer, caught between questions about life, purpose, and how to convince the goats to stop nibbling on your shoes. You decide to focus on the bigger picture. What is the secret to true strength, revered one? The monk chuckles, the kind of laughter that makes you feel like you've just shared a great joke. True strength, he replies, isn't just about brute force or conquering kingdoms. Strength is wrapping a thread of kindness around the steel of resolve. Let me tell you a story. You lean in, intrigued. You can feel a shiver of excitement ripple through you. A story from an old monk is likely to contain mysteries and lessons, perhaps even a mystery box of unexpected plot twists. And there it begins, a story as rich as your imagination allows, and as calming as the hum of a gentle stream. The monk tells you about a great king who ruled a troubled land, one that needed not just strength, but unity, a bond stronger than half-baked bread. His tale goes on, weaving through the realms of heroism, sacrifice, and the unimaginable power of a simple boy who dared to dream and believe in better days. And just like that, you know this has only just begun, a journey that will echo through time in ways you cannot yet understand. Before you know it, you're swept away in the narrative, chuckling at quirks, feeling the warmth of triumph settle in your heart. Every detail is painted like an exquisite masterpiece, each word wrapping around you, lulling you deeper into understanding and peace, like finally finding the perfect soft spot in your bed after a long day. The monk's stories stretch through the fabric of both the past and your imagination, reminding you that every sacrifice can ignite a flame of hope, illuminating the darkest corners of life, much like a candle flickering at the edge of a stormy night. Now, dear listener, let this tale linger with you as you drift gently to sleep. Close your eyes to embrace the wisdom shared tonight, perhaps playing frames from the old monk's stories until they become a dream woven into the very fabric of your heart. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the extraordinary, Chapter 4. The Monk's Wisdom and the Boy's Heart. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight we dive into a tale warmer than a freshly baked loaf of bread, set against the backdrop of the year 550 CE. Imagine you're nestled in a world where the chickens crow at the crack of dawn with an enthusiasm that could rival a toddler after a candy binge. But instead of sugary delights, young seekers like you yearn for the sweetest nectar of wisdom. As night blankets the kingdom, let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to grasp profound truths while perched precariously on the edge of reason? Or what whispers fill the air when two souls collide in a forest, searching for something greater than themselves, all while dodging squirrels aiming for an acorn stash? Think about that for a moment. You might just be the comedic relief in this narrative. Now, let's find out what our earnest boy is up to tonight. Folding your blankets around you, close your eyes and prepare for a journey into the age of monks, forests thick with ancient secrets, and one boy's life-altering quest. Picture yourself as the curious young lad wandering the labyrinthine paths of an ancient forest, heart racing like a chariot on a bumpy road. With every cautious step, the moisture-rich air envelops you like a snug blanket, while the scent of damp earth plays tricks on your nose, reminding you almost of your grandmother's spice cabinet, with a hint of mystery thrown in. The rustle of leaves overhead provides a gentle symphony, a rhythmic backdrop to your thoughts as you navigate those treacherous roots that seem to reach up in mockery. Why can't you just stay on the ground, you muse, dodging a particularly enthusiastic one? And then, there it is, the monk's small, cozy abode, wedged comfortably into the embrace of the forest. The thatched roof cascades downwards like a sleepy cat curled up on a windowsill, inviting you in. The warm glow from the windows makes you feel part of something greater, something rich with stories waiting to unfold, much like that half-eaten apple in your lunchbox that's been ignoring its expiration date. As you approach, the door creaks open to reveal the monk himself. He stands there, wearing robes that could make a potato sack look stylish, a long beard flowing like a river of wisdom down to his chest. His eyes twinkle as if hiding countless stories behind the well-worn lines of his face. Ah, a traveler besieged by zest and curiosity. Come in, dear boy. You look like you've wrestled a few shadows on your way here. Yes, wise monk, you reply, trying to maintain a semblance of poise. I came seeking wisdom. Plus, I heard your goat stew beats the village's hands down. The monk chuckles, a sound that warms the air like toasted marshmallows. Ah, wisdom and goat stew, a combination as old as time. Let me share the recipe for each. Have a seat, he gestures, and you slide onto a cushion that feels like a cloud, fluffing it up for extra comfort. The aroma of herbs fills your senses. This is nothing short of ethereal. Tell me, he begins, settling across from you with the calm demeanor of a river on a still day. What do you believe is the source of true strength? As you ponder, the monk leans closer, his eyes glimmering with anticipation. Isn't it amusing, my lad, that many think strength is simply about biceps and battle? Ah, if only strength could be delivered in a takeaway box with a complimentary side of fries. A soft laugh escapes your lips, and the monk continues. True strength lies in character and unwavering faith. Just as sturdy bricks build resilient walls, kindness, patience, and humility construct an unshakable foundation for your soul. His words weave intricate tapestries in your mind, sparking your imagination. You envision a kingdom standing tall against towering mountains, not because of steel or stones, but because of the hearts that beat within it. But what if I stumble on this journey, you ask, sensing the gravitas of his message before you've entirely grasped it. Dear boy, he replies, leaning back with a sage's knowing smile, every stumble is but a step closer. It's like learning to juggle eggs, hard at first and messy if dropped. Yet each egg holds a lesson, and sometimes you might even end up with an omelet. You can't help but grin. The thought of your future self confidently juggling eggs gives you a sense of comfort, lightening your heart. You wonder if perhaps the monk once dropped an egg himself. Did he then savor that accidental omelet while laughing at his own misadventures? Surely, even great thinkers needed breakfast. As the tales unfold, the monk describes the power of sacrifice, not just in grand gestures, but in tiny acts of love and kindness. Imagine the strength of a boy who decides to share his last piece of bread with a wandering traveler. It ripples, changing hearts, just like a pebble tossed into a still pond sends waves across its surface. You nod, drinking in his wisdom like fine wine, pondering how you might practice such strength in your daily life filled with trivial annoyances, like convincing your stubborn goat to stop nipping at your shoelaces. Strength, he continues, is rooted in our ability to uplift others. By lifting another, you too are lifted, like riding on the shoulders of a giant. And who doesn't want a better perspective on life, or at least a taller view during the short village meetings? The conversation dances through various realms, faith blooming in moments of doubt, love blossoming in dark corners. With every story, every giggle, you feel the weight of burdens lift from your small shoulders, replaced by inspiration, much like discovering a hidden cookie jar just when you thought all hope was lost. As the night deepens, you sense your eyelids growing heavy. But before sleep steals you away, the monk's final words echo in your mind like distant chimes. Remember, dear boy, seek always to unveil the divine within the ordinary, for in those humble moments often lie the seeds of greatness. With that thought nestled into the corners of your mind, the gentle embrace of sleep beckons you, guiding you into a world where the dream weaves tales of sacrifice and wisdom. Here, perhaps, the playful goat is replaced by a majestic steed, carrying you deeper into the essence of truth and understanding. Good night, dear listeners. May your dreams take flight upon the gentle winds of wisdom, where every fable brings you closer to unveiling the divine in your own life. Until we meet again. Chapter 5. Meditating Under the Royal Shadows. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight we embark on a journey that's more enlightening than a 10-hour lecture on a Friday afternoon about taxes. Yes, the kind that makes even your coffee lose its flavor. Imagine, if you will, a land where whispers of wisdom echo through its ancient trees, mingling with the croaks of frogs and the occasional confused squirrel, who's convinced it's in a high-stakes competition for the best nut. Have you ever pondered the intricacies of mentor-mentee bonds? Or questioned how a single boy's quiet resolve could possibly ripple through the fabric of a kingdom like a dropped cherry into a leisurely pond? Picture this. You're in 550 CE, trying to dodge the weird looks from the villagers as you unsuccessfully attempt to meditate in your backyard while your goat insists on nibbling your shoelaces. Let's dive deeper, shall we? Your mind is about to unfurl like a marriage proposal at a romantic candlelit dinner, hopefully less awkward though. With a gentle sigh, you find yourself once again at the monk's cozy abode, nestled between ancient trees that seem to have experienced more drama than a soap opera marathon. You've come to practice the sacred arts of prayer and meditation, thirsty for wisdom, along with a significant side of goat stew, of course. As you step inside, the warm, comforting scent of herbs dances through the air, embracing you like an old friend. The monk, your mentor, is already seated, radiating the kind of calm that seems impossible while the world outside buzzes with the chaos of daily life. The flickering candlelight casts wavering shadows, as though the very walls are engaged in a silent, philosophical debate. "Ah, my eager disciple," he greets you, his grin reminiscent of a Cheshire cat who's just received a bouquet of fish. Tonight we will delve even deeper into the divine mysteries of sacrifice. As you settle cross-legged on a cushion that feels softer than a cloud of marshmallows, you can't help but think how much you'd rather be lounging on a hammock by a shimmering lagoon, sipping an untouched coconut. "Can we practice sacrifice by skipping dessert tonight?" you squeak, only half joking. The monk chuckles, a sound as warm as the morning sun. "Ah, my dear boy, true sacrifice isn't about skipping dessert. It's about embracing the weight of your choices with grace. Imagine a world where every act of kindness is a step towards liberation." With each word, you feel your mind gradually clear, like a fog lifting off an overcast morning. The quest for truth begins to unfold before you, illuminating the dim corners of your thoughts. You inhale deeply, allowing that metaphorical fog to escape your lungs, gently nudged along by the sweet aroma from dinner. "Let's practice," the monk suggests, his voice soothing like a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves. Close your eyes and recall a moment when you chose to help someone. Perhaps when you shared your last piece of bread with that traveler who looked as lost as a goat in a garden of roses. You recall that day. The sun was bright, laughter mingling with the chatter of the marketplace. "I didn't have much," you begin, "but he looked so hungry, it was as if he was staring at the most extravagant feast from afar." "Exactly. And tell me, boy, how did that make you feel?" the monk prods, leaning in as if he's ready to unravel another life-altering truth. "It felt... well, I felt like a hero for a moment, like I was carrying the weight of justice on my shoulders," you reply, a grin emerging as you remember the traveler's gratitude. "Ah, but there's more than fleeting heroics at play," he clarifies, stroking his beard with the kind of wisdom only found in those who have been wrongly suspected of harboring a great wealth of secrets. Each sacrifice we offer creates ripples in our hearts and minds, echoing into the universe. It strengthens our faith like fresh honey sweetens tea. It's remarkable how, with every passing moment in the tranquil space, your understanding deepens, much like the flavors of the monk's goat stew, initially simple, but so intricately layered with experiences. You breathe in, feeling the divine connection with each inhale. This moment is sacred. As you meditate, you begin to visualize how your small acts of compassion could potentially free entire kingdoms. You imagine yourself gallivanting around the land, spreading kindness like confetti at a wedding, while the sick king on a throne sneezes from an abundance of overindulgence, much like a catastrophic sneeze after a huge plate of falafel. "Ah, it's like I'm the sacred superhero of the world," you exclaim, your eyes sparkling with enlightenment. "Indeed. But remember," the monk's tone shifts gently, "even superheroes need to practice humility. After all, even our beloved goats can teach us lessons in patience. Yes, they may nibble, chew, and even spit, but they offer us companionship too." You chuckle softly as the image of a goat sitting cross-legged in meditation fills your mind. "Perhaps I should ask my goat for life advice." "Perhaps," the monk replies, laughter bubbling through his words like a gentle brook. "But let us get back to our purpose. What will you sacrifice today? A moment of a scowl? An extra cookie? Or perhaps the desire to rush through your prayer?" The simple yet profound query lingers in your mind like the sweet notes of a song you can't quite remember. "The cookie sounds practical," you chuckle hesitantly. "You say this lightly, yet such seemingly small sacrifices build the foundation for a greater purpose. A purpose that might one day free not just you, but even kingdoms from the weight of despair and tyranny." His eyes twinkle with fervor. As you both delve deeper into meditation and prayer, connection between mentor and disciple tangles like two vines intertwining, rooting into the soil of divine truth. This quest for understanding leads you away from the tyrannical gaze of kings and their realities. Perhaps a king should practice sacrifice, but that's a debate for another day. Time slips away like a mischievous cat, and soon enough, the weight of your eyelids beckons gently. You realize that perhaps the journey of a boy toward divinity doesn't always require grand gestures. Sometimes it's the small moments, the boy in you, the goat in your yard, that reveal profound truths. And so, with dreams whispering at the edges of your consciousness, you drift toward the land between waking and sleeping, with laughter in your heart and breadcrumbs of wisdom trailing behind. May your dreams, too, be filled with such treasures. Good night, dear listeners. May your sleep be blessed, your dreams be light, and may you awaken ready for the adventures awaiting you tomorrow, much like our brave little protagonist, striding forth with courage and laughter into the pages of destiny. Until we meet again, Chapter 6. The King's Wrath and the Whispering Shadows. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. As we float gently on the wings of yesteryear tonight, prepare yourselves for a tale twistier than your favorite uncle's mustache post-iftar. Imagine a kingdom where people were so accustomed to living in fear that even the bravest cat would pause before startling a lazy goat. Yes, you've guessed right. We're diving into the delightful chaos of the 6th century, where kings wore more velvet than sense, and their courtiers were as useful as a chocolate teapot. But before we plunge into the magnificent drama of our story, let me tempt you with a few questions. Have you ever wondered what it's like to rule a kingdom built on paranoia? Or to find yourself so baffled by the wisdom of monks that you think they might just be practicing voodoo? And how would you handle it if your only source of news came from a gaggle of spies who could probably use a little honesty training? Oh, and while you ponder these life-altering queries, now's a good time to dim the lights, toss on a fan for effect, and get comfortable, because you're about to step into a world where things go sideways faster than a camel on a slick marble floor. Congratulations! Welcome to the year 550 CE. In a palace brimming with gold accents and the faint scent of stewed basil, the air still crackled with tension. King Qadi Shamsuddin, a ruler more paranoid than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, paced in his opulent throne room. His fingers twitched with agitation, and not just because he'd accidentally consumed too much saffron in his morning coffee. "Your Royal Highness," a sycophantic courtier chimed in, his voice as shaky as his allegiance. "Our spies have returned from the northern hills with some disturbing news. The monks are spreading teachings, ideas that could very well challenge your divine right to rule." A fitting start to a conversation, wouldn't you say? After all, what's a king without his overzealous advisors whispering sweet nothings laced with panic? The courtier stumbled over his words, nearly tripping on the plush carpets that seemed to mock the very notion of a grand thinker. King Qadi's face contorted into a flourish of anger, and you could swear that somewhere in the corners of the room, shadows cast nervous glances at one another. "What teachings?" he bellowed, sending the cobwebs and dust bunnies skittering. "Have they proposed a new method of dusting?" The courtier's eyes widened like saucers. "No, Your Highness. They propose concepts of humility, shared wealth, and, dare I say, questioning authority?" Questioning authority? The king shook his head vehemently, as though attempting to dislodge a rogue camel from his brain. "This cannot be. My godhood hinges on unquestioned loyalty. I cannot allow such blasphemy." The king's mind raced through possibilities far quicker than a rabbit on a sugar high. What if the entire kingdom turned against him? What if they decided to meditate instead of paying taxes? Could you imagine the uproar? It would be like trying to sell falafels in a place that only wanted baked clay pots. Seconds turned into minutes, and King Qadi's paranoia swelled like a loaf of bread left in the sun too long. His mind spiraled into twists and turns, all catalyzed by the thought of a revolution sparked not with swords, but with chants of kindness, compassion, and hope. Hopes like dandelions scattered by the winds of change. Anxiety turned into determination. The king snapped his fingers, drawing the attention of a flustered servant. "Fetch me my finest cloak and the royal scepter," he commanded, facial expressions shifting with the gravity of a falling star. "Tonight, we will hold a meeting. I will confront these monks, and we will seize whatever featherlight whispers of rebellion take to the air." As our dear King Qadi marched toward his destiny, or his doom, you can almost visualize the courtiers scrambling to keep up. Picture them like flapping ducks in a rainstorm, frantically adjusting their robes, whispering about the price of loyalty in increasingly confusing terms. "Quick!" the king shouted, glancing down the hall as though the walls themselves bore witness to his urgency. "Prepare an extravagant banquet. We must demonstrate that the weight of gold is far heavier than the worth of wisdom. Besides, no one questions authority when they're nibbling on stuffed lamb." And so, the tables were set. Chandeliers sparkled, and an entire kingdom held its breath, waiting for the king, who, ironically, would soon attempt to talk down a philosophy rooted in peace while wrapped in the very fabric of consumerism. What subtle irony, right? A king who couldn't even handle a few monks with decent ideas. The banquet would be splendid, with platters of sweets and savory foods, best served with a side of passive aggression. It would be a night to remember. As the sun dipped below the horizon, draping the kingdom in a melancholic hue, the king's heart thumped not against the tranquility of the night, but against the fear of insurrection. The laughter of court jesters mingled with the flapping of peacocks outside, predicting perhaps an early evening filled with cautious joy or impending doom. But hold your horses, dear listeners, for we're only at the brink of this tale. With stress enough to power a small village, one can be sure King Qadi's plans were about to unfold like a well-constructed origami crane, but with the risk of spontaneous combustion. Until next time, may your dreams be as entertaining and chaotic as a paranoid king's banquet. And remember, sometimes wisdom comes from the most unexpected places, like a goat munching on the neighbor's laundry, or a monk calling for change. Good night, dear friends. May your sleep be deep, your worries light, and your aspirations
lofty. Until we meet again. Chapter 7. The King's Merciless Pursuit and the Serene Monk. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we embark on a journey that's about as twisted as a pretzel in a windstorm. Imagine a realm where the scent of freshly baked bread competes with the subtle tinge of fear in the air. Yes, fear, that ever-present companion of a paranoid king. Here comes King Qadi Shamsuddin, who, I might add, is about as charming as a cactus at a pillow fight. Picture this. Our beloved and velvety-robed monarch, with a mind so cluttered it resembles a camel's pasture post-feast, decides to dispatch a battalion of armored soldiers in search of a solitary monk. This monk isn't just your average, latte-drinking, sandal-wearing philosopher. No, my friends, he's got wisdom so profound it could make even Ibn Rushd do a double-take. As our tale unfolds, the soldiers set off like a muddy caravan, their clanking armor sounding like a herd of startled goats in a pottery shop. The orders from King Qadi hang heavy in the air, like an unsheathed sword that whispers betrayal at every turn. "Find that monk," the king had bellowed, his voice echoing in the grand hall laden with gold and gilt. "Bring him to me. We cannot allow such teachings to fester. Ideas sprout faster than weeds in a neglected garden." As the soldiers ride out, their mission shrouded in urgency, the sun casts elongated shadows across the dry ground, almost as if it too is trying to escape the madness of the king. Can you hear their horses neighing with concern? It's as if they're thinking, "Why us? We were just enjoying a serene day." The world outside the palace is something extraordinary. It's alive with vibrant sounds and smells. A merchant yells, hawking spices as if his life depends on it. Children chase each other, their laughter echoing even this evening. Yet here come our soldiers, like rain clouds at a joyous wedding, ready to ruin everything. As night falls, the soldiers find the monk sitting under a grand date palm, fingers stained with ink, and a humble book resting on his lap. Imagine his serenity, a face lit softly by the fading light, utterly unaware of the chaos on the way, much like a cat oblivious to a nearby vacuum cleaner. The soldiers approach, their clanking armor creating a symphony of chaos that disrupts the monk's poetic thought. "You there, we have a royal decree to bring you before the king. Your words threaten his authority." The monk looks at them, strokes his graying beard with the wisdom of generations, and chuckles lightly. Forgive me, gentlemen. Are you sure you're not just looking for a nice cup of tea? Or perhaps some philosophical banter?" The soldiers exchange bewildered glances, momentarily flustered. This isn't what they expected. They were ready for a battle, not a philosophical discussion that could stretch on longer than a midday prayer on a hot day. "While we appreciate the offer, we've got royal orders," one soldier huffs, trying to sound authoritative but failing miserably as curiosity overtakes him. "What is it you speak of that could invoke a king's wrath?" At this, the monk launches into a tale that could charm even the flintiest hearts. As he speaks of humility, kindness, and the power of community, his words slice through the tension like a warm knife through honey. The soldiers, once adamant in their duty, find themselves captivated. Suddenly, they're inspired, questioning their own lives of servitude under a king whose demands seem as outlandish as a three-headed serpent. "Do you not see," the monk says, gesturing towards the twinkling stars above, "what binds us is not our allegiance to one king, but our shared humanity. To live is to love, and to love is to lead. Perhaps it's time you questioned what kind of leaders you serve." Out in the desert, away from the golden palace, the reality hits harder than an unguarded watermelon at a summer picnic. The soldiers' hardened faces soften. Some even exchange furtive nods, as if to say they're ready to entertain rebellion. Perhaps they'd rather listen to a monk than rush toward a conflict that serves only to satisfy a paranoid king.
Meanwhile, back at the palace, King Kadi, pacing as if he were a lion in a smaller-than-ideal cage, is eagerly waiting for updates. What's taking them so long? They can't be debating the meaning of life out there. Tell me they've apprehended him. His advisors, increasingly wary, whisper to each other. One suggests a grand banquet might be in order to distract the king. Perhaps serve him a platter of stuffed lamb. Another squeaks, his eyes darting. Little do they know, the very act of celebrating is about to take a dramatic turn. As the soldiers bumble back into the palace several hours later, you can almost hear King Kadi's heart sink like a lead balloon. His soldiers returned, but not as triumphant heroes. They are now draped in confusion, unable to reconcile their revelations with the king's demands. "Your Majesty," stutters the leader of the soldiers, avoiding the king's expectant glare. "We found him, but there may have been a misunderstanding. The monk spoke of peace, love, and kindness." Genuine silence blankets the room. Even the courtiers, usually as brash as a goat at a wedding feast, stare in disbelief. King Kadi, mouth agape and unable to form coherent thoughts, splutters. "Peace? Love? Who does he think he is? A philosopher? Why weren't you interrogating him until you got answers that would keep us all safe?" But one brave soldier steps forward, holding his captain's hand, and says, "Majesty, what if we turned his words into a rallying cry, instead of silencing him?" Oh, the irony. A king who fears his subjects' minds more than armies lays helpless against the unseen power of wisdom. The walls of the palace seem to breathe in, expectantly waiting for the king to react, sparking a crucial turning point in the kingdom's fate. Is it possible that a single monk's simple wisdom could, like a chain reaction during lunch with the wrong order of kebabs? The king's mind swirls, but as the night prevails surrounding the palace, you know this is merely the calm before a far greater storm. So, let us pause here, dear listeners. As the weight of expectations hangs in the air like freshly baked bread, consider how often we get so tethered to authority that we forget the power of compassion, kindness, and enlightenment. Who knew that a monk would tangle a kingdom into disarray by merely speaking of empathy? Stay close. It seems the winds of change are starting to rustle the leaves of this tale. Until next time, may you find your sleep as rich in wisdom as our monk's teachings, and may your dreams be filled with peaceful battles of your own. Chapter 8. The Boy's Secret Journey and the Monk's Final Lessons. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Settle in because tonight we dive into a tale that's twistier than a kitten chasing its tail. Picture yourself in the year 500 CE, right in the heart of a kingdom swirling with drama, larger-than-life characters, and a generous sprinkle of chaos. You know that feeling when you strap on your boots for an adventure, only to discover there's a thorn bush waiting to embrace your ankles? Yep, that's about to be our reality. But before we embark on this expedition, let's take a moment to contemplate. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be a young boy sneaking through the trees under the watchful eye of your overly protective mom? Or perhaps what it feels like to carry the weight of an entire kingdom on your small, untested shoulders? I mean, wouldn't it be easier to just stay home and binge-watch quality Netflix like everyone else? Now, if you enjoy this journey, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. But only if you truly like it, of course. No one's here to pressure you into a relationship with a YouTube channel. Dim the lights, get cozy, and perhaps grab a snack because, in our time-straddling adventure through the past, snacks may or may not have pointed puns at historical hyperbole. So, without further ado, welcome. Congratulations. You've just woken up in the kingdom of 500 CE, where every tree has a secret, and every shadow could belong to your mom. Or worse, a soldier hunting for that elusive monk. Let's step gently into the shoes of our young hero. There's this brave boy, as stealthy as a cat sneaking past a sleeping dog. He creeps through the gnarled roots and under tree branches that could easily snag a turban right off your head. Can you hear the crunch of dried leaves beneath his feet?
Feel that? That's the palpable tension in the air, electrifying enough to make even a cactus consider a career change to a field of flowers. Now let's fast forward, shall we? Our boy has been traversing the daunting forest paths, a landscape thick with intrigue. The air tastes like equal parts adventure and anxiety, more anxious than an apple pie left out in the sun too long. He's racing toward the wise, serene monk who awaits beneath a palm tree that seems to be waving at him. The sun hangs low in the sky, casting a golden glow as if it's just realized it may need to clock out soon. The monk, with his long, flowing robes that look more comfy than a marshmallow pillow, seems unaware of the imminent danger. Little does the boy know, he's about to hear some final lessons that might just tweak the fate of an entire kingdom. As the boy approaches, the monk's eyes sparkle with wisdom, reminiscent of a wise owl on a moonlit night. "Ah, my young friend, come closer. We're not to be caught like a couple of goats in a thicket today." And at that, the boy can't help but chuckle, because how true is that? Getting caught is as brilliant as using a watermelon as a hammer. "Time is short, my boy," the monk continues, sensing the urgency like a cat detects a can of tuna. "Listen well. The world is filled with fools wielding power. And what do they eat, you ask? Not salad and fruit, but fears and ignorance." He chuckles, throwing in an exaggerated eyebrow raise for good measure. The boy leans in, although not too close. After all, it's probably good to keep some distance when discussing power-hungry kings. "What should I remember most from your teachings?" he asks, his voice barely a whisper. "Ah, yes. Remember this. Like finding a needle in a haystack, wisdom isn't the surface of the sea, but the depths of the ocean." And just as the boy processes this, the leaves rustle ominously. As if on cue, the monk's serene expression clouds over. "Time to go. You must run." So off the boy darts, faster than a cheetah spotted at a discount sale. The branches whip past him as he introduces himself to the concept of flight, relying on sheer will and perhaps a sprinkle of divine assistance. As he dodges between trees, his heart thumping like a drum at a wedding celebration, thoughts race through his mind faster than a merchant peddling his wares at a market. What does the future hold? Could his humble visits to the monk sway the fate of a paranoid king? Did he really run the risk of incurring a wrath from soldiers who are basically the royal henchmen? "Well, it looks like we're not at a picnic, are we?" he mumbles to himself, dodging another low-hanging branch. "Next time, I'll have to come armed with a picnic basket instead of wisdom." But alas, every tale must bend toward resolution, and each life lesson learned becomes like a tiny seed planted in the fertile ground of his heart. The boy understands that whether he is caught or not, his actions have the power to spark change, a ripple that might just eventually wash over the lunacy in the king's castle. There's danger approaching, yes, but there's also potential and purpose. Armed now, not just with teachings, but perhaps with a spark of rebellion, our brave boy knows that the journey isn't just about himself or the monk. It extends to the entirety of the kingdom, languishing under the heavy skies of oppression. Breathe easy, dear listeners, as we pause here. Swirl those thoughts around, much like a good cup of mint tea on a warm evening. Could a single boy's courage turn the tide for an entire kingdom? It seems like we may soon find out. The path is still winding, and the night is young. Stay close. The winds of fate are merely gathering strength, and we are about to witness how wisdom, humor, and courage can light a path even in the darkest of nights. Until then, may your dreams be as enriching as this young boy's daring quest. Chapter 9. The Boy and the Beast. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Settle further into your cozy corners because we're about to embark on a segment that's more dramatic than a cat stuck in a tree, desperate for a rescue squad. Or, at least, a gentle nudge. Imagine now our brave boy, journeying unsteadily through the gnarled roots of the forest. Perhaps you've wandered through such brambles, haven't you? You know, when one moment you're stepping lightly, and the next moment, You've inadvertently become a pinball machine, ricocheting off branches while trying to maintain both dignity and ankle integrity. Oh, the joys of being clumsy in nature. In the year 500 CE, our hero's path twists onward, each step echoing the heartbeats of a kingdom whose future rests precariously on his small shoulders. What is it like, you wonder, to carry the weight of an entire kingdom, especially when you've just finished your pre-teen phase and might still have broccoli stuck in your teeth? As he meanders deeper into the wilderness, his heart races faster than a wild camel chasing a mirage. And just when you think it's time for a pit stop to catch a breather and enjoy some snacks, is it only me who thinks of snacks at moments like these? He encounters something that even the bravest knight would find terrifying. A massive, ferocious beast, armed with giant claws sharper than Aunt Aziza's judgment during family gatherings. The beast stands blockading the road, eyes gleaming menacingly like they've just spotted a three-course buffet, every villager in the vicinity frozen, stiff in fear. You can almost hear the collective gasp, like a few dozen elders running out of breath at once. But in the face of this monster, our boy stands unfazed, his heart pounding not just from fear, but from simmering determination. Imagine the townspeople, clamoring behind him, their hearts sinking in a strange choir. Well, we weren't watching Netflix, but now we're stuck in this cliffhanger. Maybe some are regretting griping about their tax money being spent on fancy palanquins instead of a shiny new sword. The beast's roar feels like the world itself is vibrating. Even the trees seem to shudder. It's a sound that fixes the villagers in place, like being glued to a chair you forgot was too hot to sit on. The claws, gleaming and sharp, promise only disaster, and the townsfolk's faces morphing into expressions resembling those found at a dentist's office just before a root canal. But our boy, bless his courageous heart, remembers the monk's words of wisdom. Like finding a needle in a haystack, wisdom isn't the surface of the sea, but the depths of the ocean. Or so he remembers, while also thinking about how he'd much rather be searching for a needle than facing this beast. Now, let's set the scene. The ground beneath them is an orchestra of crisp leaves, while the air carries the tension thick enough to spread on bread. To be clear, that's some rustic establishment quality bread, not the kind that crumbles under the disastrous weight of unrealistic expectations. The boy steps forward, determination flaring in his heart, more intense than a sunbeam on a bright summer day. You might be thinking, oh dear, is he really going to confront that beast? His heart beats not just for his well-being, but for the entire trembling village behind him. Channeling his inner lion, despite being a mere boy, he solidifies his resolve. What if he had a magical sword, or perhaps an invisibility cloak? Alas, none of those wishful trinkets exist here. All he has is courage, a twinkle of wisdom, and perhaps an annoying urge to ask the beast if it's ever tried a good flapjack. Because who wouldn't trade a terrifying encounter for a good meal? Courage, my friends, he suddenly shouts to rally the villagers, channeling as much inspiration as a drama queen at a poetry slam. He draws upon the monk's teachings, embracing the wisdom that courage often sparks hope. We are not weaklings. We will not be swallowed by fear or this oversized puppy. Beast, rather. Laughter ripples through the crowd, breaking the solemnity of the moment. They can't help it. Picturing their fearsome adversary as a clumsy puppy looking for a belly rub actually lightens the mood. The absurdity of their predicament, a hungry monster guarding the road and an unarmed boy boldly addressing it, can't help but create a chuckle, even in the darkest circumstances. And then, half terrified, half amused, some of the villagers even start cheering. "Go for it, kid! You've got this!" It echoes through the trees, morphing into a chorus of unfortunate yet amusing encouragement. "Show that beast who's boss!" Our boy places a shaky hand on a nearby stick, perhaps a stick of destiny, because it's highly questionable how it will be utilized. Will it be a noble sword? A makeshift shield?
a gesture of absolute derision, asking, "What's your deal?" As the beast snarls, the smell of unkempt fur wafts through the air. Perhaps, just perhaps, if he asks politely, it will let them all pass. "Hey there, you fearsome creature with the eyes of an angry sock puppet. We come in peace, and we bring offerings of fluffy bread, guaranteed 100% gluten-free." In this absurd standoff, a curious thought flashes through the boy's mind. Maybe if this whole heroic thing flops, I could set up a bakery right here. The Beastly Bread Company. Now that has a nice ring to it. Yet his heart races as he boldly pierces the weight of silence. They are not just hungry for bread, they are hungry for hope. Little does he know, this very encounter holds the power to unleash change upon the kingdom, determination sprouting just as courage will. Better buckle up, dear listeners. The tale is not over yet. A haircut, a beast, and the fate of a kingdom all hang in the balance. How will our brave boy fare in
this face-off? Fluff those pillows as our quest continues to unfold into a realm of unexpected victories and amusing escapades. Chapter 10. The Boy's Courage and the Weight of Destiny. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. It's time to settle into your favorite napping positions, perhaps clutching a pillow like it's your wrestling opponent, or cradling a blanket like a beloved pet. Tonight, we have a story that's even more heart-pounding than trying to assemble IKEA furniture without the instructions, but with far fewer angry outbursts, unless you count a certain boy who's about to face a beast. Picture this. The morning sun spills golden light across a kingdom in dire need of salvation. Can you feel that warm embrace? It's like a gentle hug from the universe, reminding everyone that sometimes the most daunting tasks can rest on the shoulders of the smallest heroes. And boy, does our hero have a lot on his plate, as if his mom just set down a whole feast on a single table, leaving him overwhelmed. No pressure, right? As our story unfolds, you find yourself transported to the year 500 CE, where our boy stands at the edge of a vast forest. This isn't just any forest. It's a labyrinth of shadows and sounds, much like your neighbor's backyard barbecue jubilation, and the cooking smells coming from there. The boy's heart races, but hey, maybe it's just the leftover excitement from last night's dinner. He takes a deep breath, the kind of breath that feels like he's preparing to dive into a swimming pool filled with jelly. Really sticky, but not entirely unpleasant. With a newfound faith lighting up his chest like a flickering candle, he scans the ground and spots a small stone, just lying there, looking as ordinary as Tuesday paperwork. "All right, stone," he mutters, squatting down to pick it up. "You're my only ally today. Let's do this." He closes his eyes and offers a prayer to the one true God, asking for strength and courage. Underneath that simple request, though, lies a torrent of determination, an unwavering resolve that would make even the most experienced motivational speaker nod in approval. But let's take a moment to address the elephant, or should I say, the beast, blocking the path ahead. As our boy prepares to confront the ferocious giant ahead of him, imagine the townsfolk huddled behind, peering through branches, their faces pale as if they've just been served a platter of cold stew. You can hear their whispers. Is he seriously going to confront that monster? Where's the nearest exit? It's like a live-action episode of a suspenseful reality show, with our boy at the center stage while the kingdom fidgets in the background. The beast looms large, its presence towering over him like homework looming over a procrastinator. No one ever said being brave was easy. But take heart, dear listeners. Our boy is no ordinary lad. With each heartbeat, he finds a flutter of resolve stronger than a herd of charging elephants. The villagers' collective anxiety laces through the air, forming an invisible but palpable force of support. And possibly, just possibly, the smell of the roasted lamb they were supposed to feast on before this whole debacle unfolded. He glances down at his stone, the humble weapon of choice for a fully armed beast showdown. Not exactly a sword, but hey, it's all about perspective.
Kinda like asking your friends whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Spoiler alert, it does. Lively banter flits through the air as the boy ponders his next move, attempting to muster the confidence that his mother insists is there, even if he sometimes doubts it when amidst a pack of boisterous kids at play. A roar erupts from the beast, almost shaking the ground beneath him. It sounds like a thunderstorm deciding it wants to challenge a circus tent. Just then, a wild thought crosses the boy's mind. Why do all the cool adventures come with giant monsters? What if I accidentally join a circus instead? But instead of succumbing to absurdity, our young hero rises to the occasion. Summoning every ounce of courage, he boldly calls out, "Hey, you oversized furball! You can't intimidate me that easily!" A sharp gasp escapes from the townsfolk. You can almost feel them clutching their imaginary popcorn. "Courage, my friends!" he shouts, rallying them like a captain before a battle. He imagines himself in a grand play, waving a makeshift flag. "We are not weaklings!" The words cut through the tension, thick as a wall-sized cheese platter at a village festival. Though his voice quakes, laughter ripples through the forest. The thought of a giant monster being challenged by a young boy with a stone ignites a spark of hope, and maybe a tad bit of hilarity within the gathered crowd. The villagers feel a flicker of exhilaration, envisioning their fearsome adversary as nothing more than a misguided puppy ready for a belly rub. The absurdity lightens the weight of the moment. Moments swirl together as our boy steps forth, his hand steadying on that mysterious stone, more a talisman of courage than a weapon of destruction. What if he could somehow reason with the beast? "Do you have an appointment or something, big guy? Because you really should consider some professional grooming." His wit forms a bridge between fear and the absurdity of life. Endowed with humor and resolve, the boy stands firm. With the townspeople cheering him on, laughter mixing with tension, he readies himself for the impending encounter, a dance where uncertainty meets determination. The fate of the kingdom suddenly seems tethered not just to valor, but also to a delightful sense of absurdity. Will our brave boy find a way to tame the beast, or at least broker peace? As you snuggle deeper into your blankets, let your imagination wander. Picture the absurdity, the courage, the hope. Because in this tale, our young hero is about to unleash unimaginable change, not just for himself, but for an entire kingdom clinging to the edge of fear. Stay tuned, dear listeners.
The night has just begun, and so has his journey. Chapter 11. The Boy's Aim and a Kingdom's Fate. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. As you nestle deeper into your blankets, let's embark on a tale that's warmer than a freshly baked loaf of bread, but without the crumbs getting all over your favorite spot on the couch. Tonight, we plunge into the whims of fate, where a single boy's aim holds the power to change the course of an entire kingdom, or at least to stop it from being served as the morning snack for an oversized beast. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like a potato, comfortable but utterly stationary, occasionally looking around for someone to rescue you from the couch. Imagine living in 500 CE, where potatoes were a myth, and your biggest hairy problem wasn't what to binge watch, but rather a terrifying creature ready to snatch you for lunch. Picture this. You awaken to the sun peeking through the trees like a nosy neighbor who just can't mind their own business. Somewhere out in the wild, a creature with about as much charm as a rabid raccoon is roaming near your village, looking for its next meal. And you can't help but hope that meal is not on your plate. Our young hero, with a heart so brave it could rival the most gallant knights drawn from pepperoni pizza commercials, stands at the edge of the village, stone in hand, slightly damp and smelling like, well, let's hope he didn't skip washing his hands before this. Armed with only humor to rally the battered hopes of the villagers behind him, he squints into the distance, spotting the hulking silhouette of a beast that could probably win an award for most unintentionally terrifying house pet.
In a moment clearer than an Instagram filter, a wild idea strikes him. Maybe there's just enough divine intervention for me to give this monster a surprise performance. With a heart pounding like a marching band in a small-town parade, complete with confetti and a few enthusiastic, if slightly off-key, high school trumpet players, he grips his small stone like a javelin and prepares to change history. As the ground trembles beneath the beast's hefty paws, his mind races faster than a child who just spotted the ice cream truck. If I miss, everyone might wonder about my aim, might think I practice at home on the milk jug. Do I really want my friends to remember me as the kid who couldn't hit a target if his life depended on it? Not so much. No more time for silly thoughts. He needs to focus. The beast charges. The villagers gasp, their collective breath held tighter than grandma's hug when she's convinced you're still too skinny for her homemade baklava. Our boy closes his eyes and offers a prayer, a secret wish for courage that could melt a glacier. Please don't let me end up as the afternoon snack. With all the focus of someone attempting an Olympic-level balance while juggling, he rears back and hurls that stone with all the might of a small cannonball. The stone flies through the air like it possesses a mind of its own, striking the beast squarely between its glaring eyes. The sound reverberates like the crack of a thunderbolt, causing the villagers to flinch and possibly lose a few hairs in the process. Miraculously, the beast stumbles and collapses to the ground like a toddler who just realized nap time is not the enemy after all. The dust swirls and settles, revealing an astonished silence thick enough to spread on a slice of toast. Our boy stands in shock, mouth agape, heart racing like it's just spotted a new pair of shoes on sale. Did that really just happen? Slowly, the villagers erupt into cheers, their relief echoing through the trees like a quirky, triumphant song. The boy becomes a whirlwind of laughter and tears, a mix of jubilation and disbelief as flowers of gratitude bloom around him, mostly metaphorical, of course, as he looks around for real ones. They lean out from behind trees, breaking the tension with the collective sense of absurdity that such a small gesture could sway fate in such a direction. For a minute, he feels like a giant in a world full of simple stones. As the boy's laughter mingles with the clapping hands of grateful villagers, even that old neighbor who usually yelled at everyone gets caught up in the moment, chuckling with merry disbelief. The victories, big and small, are still celebrated, like finding the last piece of chocolate in the pantry. In that moment of triumph, he realizes he's not just championing himself, but igniting hope within a kingdom that had nearly surrendered to despair. This moment, dear listeners, is a crystallized speck of time, a bead on the necklace of history, glittering with the possibilities of bravery, wit, and divine assistance. Who would have thought that a humble stone, combined with the courage of a boy, would part ways with fear and usher forth something extraordinary? As the dust settles around the village, they rally together in celebration like it's the first festival after a long, dry summer. And our hero? He stands awash in laughter, a smile so wide it could rival a crescent moon, inspiring tales of bravery that would be told for generations. The heavens seem particularly bright that night, almost as if the universe is cheering and snapping pictures, emoji style, to share with friends of its own. Ah yes, it's a night for stories, dreams, and a hearty look at the magic that weaves through the fabric of our existence. Remember, dear listeners, sometimes the smallest actions lead to the most monumental changes, and some dreams, when mixed with a little courage and laughter, can lift an entire kingdom. So, let's snuggle into our dreams as the boy's laughter echoes in our ears, knowing that sometimes being a hero just requires a sprinkle of faith and perhaps a clever stone. Chapter 12. The Royal Summoning and Doubts in the Court. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we drift into a tale softer than a cloud's embrace, yet packed with intrigue more potent than your best friend's ghost stories at a sleepover. Imagine this. You're in the year 500 CE, possibly wearing a tunic that resembles a potato sack,
under a sky so blue it looks like it's been slapped with a fresh coat of paint. Everything is quaint, but something monstrous lurks nearby, prowling around like that one relative who always overstays their welcome. Picture a kingdom bustling with life under the shimmering sun, where the scents of spiced lamb and freshly baked bread intermingle in the air. A boy, just a tad taller than your average houseplant, has recently made quite the splash with his legendary stone-throwing skills. Yes, folks, he has taken down a fearsome beast with little more than divine intervention and enough determination to make your grandma's matzo ball soup float. Now, questions must be swirling in your mind like overcooked spaghetti. What happens when the kingdom's officials hear of this miraculous feat? Will they believe him? Will they use him for mobster-like purposes? Bring me the boy with the magic stone! What about the king? Is he just another pompous bloke with ridiculous hats to impress? But before we get too deep into the intrigue, let's take a moment to kick back, dim those lights, and snuggle into your blankets. Are you comfortable? Good. Just imagine you've woken up in this peculiar phase of history, your life reduced to dodging beasts, appeasing kings, and... oh, what's that? The shimmering sound of a royal summons? Thus begins our escapade. The boy's success spread like wildfire, igniting excitement and disbelief alike. It reached the king's ears, who found himself entangled in a conundrum sharper than the finest silk in all the land. What's this I hear? A mere child besting a creature of the wild with nothing but a stone? Quite an exceptional tale, but can I really trust a child? The skepticism dripped off his tongue like honey, thick and sweet. The king's opulent court, decorated with chandeliers so extravagant they must have been made by angels on a caffeine high, echoed with the buzz of anticipation. Nobles and dignitaries gathered, but let's be honest, most were just there for the snacks. Word of the boy's miracle swept through the lavish hall like confetti at a wedding, swirling around until it finally landed at the feet of the young hero, who was about to be summoned. As the boy arrives, hair tousled like a kid before his first day of kindergarten, he can't help but wonder what's in store. Did they call him to be crowned? To be treated like royalty? Or possibly to explain how he managed to bounce a stone off such a majestic creature? Stepping into the vast chamber, he looked up at the towering pillars that seemed to scrape the heavens, a grander entrance than he ever expected.
As curious eyes filled with skepticism settled on him, he thought, well, this is awkward. I didn't even bring my PowerPoint presentation, let alone an epic soundtrack. The king, seated atop a throne covered in gold as if he were a misplaced turkey seeking warmth, waved a dismissive hand, beckoning the boy forth. You, he boomed. Tell me, did you really strike down that beast with just a stone? The boy gulped, imagining the backlash if he turned out to be a fraud, compulsively twiddling his fingers as if they each had a tiny life of their own. Yes, Your Majesty. I mean, sort of, he stumbled. And how did you attain such talent? The king leaned forward, eyebrows raised, mimicking a curious cat stalking a particularly engaging toy. Well, said the boy, scratching his head nervously, I just figured a good aim beats a bad hair day any day. That caused a few chuckles from the court's more laughable nobles, who immediately backed off, worried about offending someone who could very well wield divine powers. The king chuckled as well, but kept his demeanor serious. This incurs significant interest. If you possess such skills, perhaps you could be of use to my kingdom. The boy's heart raced. He never fancied himself more than a kid with a good arm and a wild imagination. Use? For what, exactly? His mind danced with the possibility of adventure tinged with dread. What sort of kingdom might require a boy who throws stones for a living? Crowned in gold or no, everyone here seems so serious. To inspire, the king declared, raising an impressive goblet as if to toast to the boy's potential. "Your astonishing bravery will remind us all that no problem is insurmountable." His voice echoed off the walls, full of fervor. Imagine that, the boy thought. Here he was, standing in front of a king comparing his marksmanship to affrighted villagers and hopeful children. He wasn't ready for any public speeches or rallies. Yikes, did anyone say something about shark-infested waters? But the court erupted into laughter and applause. And who wouldn't love a good laugh and some cheers at the expense of their childhood fears? As the echoes faded and the room seemed to pulse with energy, he thought, what an absurdly mad and wondrous twist of fate. The boy who once cowered before a wild beast now stood in the courts of kings. Oh, but the pressure was mounting. Sure, the crowd applauded. But could a mere boy become a symbol of hope? And what if he slipped up? What if he threw another rock and caused a royal embarrassment, or worse, brought a dragon to the banquet table? Never mind. With determination swarming through him like 1,000 fireflies at dusk, he resolved to take on whatever duties awaited. Because sometimes, dear listeners, fate throws a rock your way, and all you need is the courage to catch it. The king's smile grew broader, and he clapped his
Hands once more, summoning the attention of the extravagant court. "Let the people know. A boy from humble beginnings is destined to inspire my kingdom. Who said magic is reserved for mythical creatures, eh?" And as the boy stood there, nerves tingling just like his grandmother's famous spicy soup, he realized that magic didn't always come in flashy forms. Sometimes it can be as simple as a stone, a prayer, and a heart willing to step up. Your adventure has just begun, dear listeners. As the royal court prepares to acknowledge this unexpected figure, take a deep breath and relax. Gather your thoughts as the story unfolds around you like the petals of a flower opening in the moonlight. As the laughter continues echoing through the chamber, the boy glances around. What could possibly lie ahead? A wild ride indeed. And we leave our hero poised at the edge of destiny, a dreamer turned kingmaker, spinning uncertainty into promise. Can he rise to the occasion? Will his fate prove more dazzling than the glint of gold in the court? Stay tuned as we unveil more in this enchanting journey, filled with laughter, courage, and perhaps an unexpected twist or two, just like a really good dream. And so, dear listeners, let's dim those lights once more as we drift off into the next chapter of this tale, where bravery binds the future of a kingdom, and perhaps a little magic stirs in the hearts of us all. Sweet dreams. Chapter 13. The Boy Before the King. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we embark on a journey more exhilarating than attempting to assemble IKEA furniture without a manual. Welcome to the world of 600 CE. Imagine the scenarios, a unique blend of ancient wonder and modern quirkiness. You find yourself in a kingdom with more drama than a soap opera, complete with ornate palaces and a king who fancies himself an omnipotent ruler. Picture the air thick with the fragrant aroma of roasted lamb, exactly how your grandma used to make it, with spices that could make a dragon sneeze. And let's not forget the dust, thick enough to remind you of that unfortunate time when you tried, or tried not, to dust your living room. So, what's the scene today? A fierce boy with the confidence of someone who just won a staring contest with a scarecrow stands before the king, surrounded by a gaggle of armed guards, expert scowlers, and one particularly well-dressed nobleman with a hat that could double as a small boat. Now, take a second to reflect. Have you ever found yourself in a room where everyone seems to be staring at you, thinking, what does this kid know? You might have felt like a deer in the headlights, vulnerable and awkward, like someone who accidentally rewatched the wrong season of a TV series while trying to sound like an expert. Will the boy crumble under pressure? Will he win the admiration of the king and these cravat-wearing noble peers? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 600 CE, the year when everything gets exceptionally dramatic and a tad absurd. Not only does this boy have to impress the king, but he must also stand strong in the face of royal scrutiny, because defying the king is like insisting that pineapple belongs on pizza, controversial and rife with consequences. As our story unfolds, envision the grand chamber, the air heavy with anticipation, and chandeliers that glittered like they were filled with the hopes and dreams of everyone in the kingdom. Our hero, with a heart racing faster than a caffeinated rabbit, stands before the king, who's likely practicing his best authority facial expression, a mixture of curiosity and slight irritation that any teenager using an unusual hair gel would wear. "Boy," the king booms, his voice echoing off the walls, "is it true that you took down the beast with just a stone?" He leans forward, eyes glimmering like two well-cooked kebabs, a mix of interest and skepticism splattered across his otherwise regal face. The boy, pushed by courage stronger than a double espresso at dawn, steps forward. "Yes, Your Majesty," he proclaimed, calm as a summer breeze. "It was divine power that guided my aim." Hear that confidence? It's so thick you could slice it with a knife and spread it on your unsalted bread. The court gasps. You can almost picture the collective intake of breath, like when someone brings out the last slice of cake and the room holds its breath in anticipation. "Divine power?" the king retorts, eyebrows arched higher than a cat in a tree. "Care to elaborate on how a mere boy managed such a miracle?" The boy's pulse quickens, and he thinks about all the hero tutorials he has watched, thinking of how they always have that epic monologue. With a bit of playful seriousness mixed in, he replies, "Well, Your Majesty, I've always believed that good aim is just prayers delivered with a stone." Laughter bubbles up from the court, a sound that rolls like an unexpected wave crashing against the shore. Nobles, who typically wore expressions as stiff as boards, now chuckle with glee, their pompous airs deflating slightly. But the king retains his grave demeanor, glancing at his guards as if awaiting their reaction like a coach watching his team misfire on the field. "Inspiration, a spark ignited by divine whim, is seldom locked within mere stones," he declares, the weight of authority draped upon each word. "Perhaps you could serve my kingdom, ignite fervor in the hearts of our warriors." Awkward gears shift in the boy's mind, spinning wildly like a wheel of cheese at a medieval fair. Did the king just propose he lead a royal campaign using ridiculous rock-throwing skills? Could the kingdom really rely on a boy wielding a stone like a confused magician? What's next? He muses. Doing a rock concert in the royal courtyard? In a world tinged with absurd humor, the boy raises his chin, a blend of mischief and bravery flickering in his eyes. "Your Majesty, I can only promise that your enemies will be discouraged enough by my throwing technique to reconsider their life choices. I'll make them rethink their plans based on my unparalleled middling skills." Laughter peppers the air, turning the tense atmosphere lighter, like a softened pillow after a long day. The king's serious expression cracks into a smirk. After all, haven't we all seen the power of a child to shift the mood like a well-placed joke at family gatherings? Let the people know of your prowess, and weave this tale into the fabric of our history. You may yet prove to be the miracle we didn't know we needed. With newfound resolve twinkling in his eyes, our young hero stands tall among the royals, contemplating how his stone skills, not just a simple act, but an emblem of hope, could change the course of a kingdom. What a roller coaster ride! Who knew that yesterday's fears could morph into tomorrow's legends? And so, dear listeners, close your eyes and drift into the night, pondering how even the smallest of sacrifices can echo through time like a stone cast into a lake, rippling outward into the lives of many. Through laughter tinged with bravery,
Perhaps you too can find your strength in the most unexpected moments. Sweet dreams, and stay tuned for the next chapter.
Chapter 14, Darkness of the Dungeon. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight we find ourselves in a place colder than your aunt's stairs when you forget to RSVP. Welcome to the depths of a dungeon in 600 CE. This is not just any dungeon. It's one that has witnessed more drama than a soap opera featuring feuding families and a pet iguana named Iggy. Imagine the air tinged with dampness and the faint smell of... what's that? Old boots? Yes, indeed. It has the aroma reminiscent of a gym bag that a teenager forgot about for 2 weeks. And thankfully, there's no IKEA about to throw us into a crisis of assembly, because when the royal guards throw our brave boy into this dark chamber, there's no flat-packed furniture to worry about. Just chains. Heavy iron chains that clank and wobble more than your knees when you think about cutting down on dessert. As you settle in, picture the boy. A mix of courage and mischief, like that one friend who thinks it's a great idea to dance on tabletops after 2 cups of chai. He has been captured by the furious king, whose anger burns hotter than your neighbor's grill on a Sunday afternoon. The boy, who just moments ago stood boldly before the court, is now at the mercy of shadows and despair. Let's take a moment to reflect. Have you ever been on the receiving end of a lecture so strict it left you questioning your existence? Our young hero here knows exactly how that feels, except his is a bit more, shall we say, permanent, with shackles that could probably double as garden tools if one gets innovative. Are these guards a bit too dramatic? Or is it just that this whole dungeon scenario takes the cake for overkill? Now, flash back in your mind, dear listeners, to your own mischief. Picture that time you took the last donut, only to face the wrath of your entire office. Our young hero's predicament is similar, but heightened to an epic scale. Instead of scornful glances, he faces the icy glares of guards, like a winter's day without a jacket. As the heavy door of the dungeon clangs shut, the sound echoes, reverberating in the boy's ears. Thud, thud, thud. It's an ominous reminder that this space is like a really bad podcast episode you didn't subscribe to. It just keeps playing. The cold envelops him like that blanket your mom insists you take on winter nights, because apparently, one cannot be trusted in the chill. With his hands and feet shackled and bound, the boy huddles on the stone floor, feeling every rough edge and dip like an unfortunate roller coaster ride gone wrong. And what's this? In the distance, the boy hears faint whispers grumbling about damp bread and stale dates. An odd combination, but isn't that all too relatable? Picture the real drama unfolding beyond the cold stone walls. The kingdom's subjects, buzzing about rumors. Did you hear how the boy defied the king? I'll tell you, he didn't flinch at all. You could almost liken it to your friends gossiping about who forgot to take the garbage out last week, adding spice to a rather dull conversation over stale coffee. Within the depths of despair, our intrepid hero wonders if it's possible to turn this whole dungeon fiasco into a history lesson. What if, he muses, this becomes the moment that turns the tides? What if I write this saga into the very annals of time, highlighting that even in darkness, there's a flicker of hope? The thought catches him, much like a cat stuck in a tree contemplating life choices. Not to mention, it's quiet. You could almost hear a pin drop. If only that pin weren't sitting on the table next to the stewed camel head. Yes, listeners, you heard that right. It seems the kingdom offers more than just shadows. It also has flavors that might make you question your life choices. Back in his dungeon cell, he decides he can't just sit around feeling sorry for himself. I might be stuck here, he tells himself, but I'll make my chains clank like a jazz band on a Friday night. As he plays air drums with the chains, he giggles at the absurdity. There's humor even in gloom. After all, one must find levity amidst adversity, like finding a perfect fruitcake at a holiday party. A couple of monks trying out funny poses pass by the dungeons, with vibes entirely contradictory to the grim situation, eliciting stifled laughter from our boy, who, despite everything, is committed to embracing his sense of humor.
It's like he's auditioning for a comedy special nobody asked for. In the silence of a lonely dungeon, our boy begins a new ritual. Each time he clinks the chains, he turns it into a melody of hope, a little ditty entitled "Escaping My Fate," complete with an imaginary audience of rats and one very bewildered cockroach. As laughter mixes with his resolve, a soft glimmer of resolve shines through the darkness. Maybe, just maybe, this boy's trials in the dungeon are leading him to a liberation far greater than he initially perceived. The thought of turning his misery into something that will weave itself into the kingdom's tales inspires him, sending a ripple of courage through his bones. So, dear listeners, let this chapter be a reminder. Even in the darkest places, creativity, humor, and the flicker of hope can light the way like fireflies on a warm summer night. Remember to enjoy every moment, even the dreary ones, and perhaps even hum a little tune as you navigate through life's inevitable dungeons. As we settle into the next phase of our story, remember that the journey isn't just about the darkness. It's also about finding those sparkles of light that guide us through. Sweet dreams, and hold your inner hero close until we unveil the next part of this captivating narrative.
Chapter 15. The Radiant Light of Faith. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. As we delve deeper into the shadowy vaults of our young hero's dungeon, let's take a moment to appreciate the aura of darkness. You know, the kind of darkness that makes you wonder how you ever thought going spelunking in a cave could be a fun date. Well, it's a tad worse in our current scenario, where echoes of despair bounce around like a lost kitten trying to find its way home. In this frigid space, where even the rats have called the local pest control for backup, our brave boy huddles, still vibrant with the courage that defies his predicament. Picture him there, friends, crying out to the heavens, whispering fervent prayers with such zeal that even the stalactites above seem to quiver. His faith, oh luminous faith, cuts through the oppressive darkness like a bright neon sign that reads, "Free wishes inside." Imagine him, hands shackled, feeling like he's stuck wearing a pair of very unattractive handcuffs at a party where everyone else is flaunting flashy accessories. There's something about those rusty chains that tries to suffocate his spirit, but alas, little does that dungeon know. Our boy isn't just any captive, he's armed with an unstoppable force, hope, wrapped in the warmth of his unwavering belief. Now, let's talk about the sense of despair wafting around him. It's like the stuff you would find at the back of your fridge if you forgot about that 3-week-old lasagna. The air feels thick, not just from stale bread and wilted dates, but the lingering weight of his circumstance. But fear not, dear listeners, for this boy is about to transform that smell of moldy history into something closer to fresh-baked bread, all through the sheer power of his imagination. Sometimes you might find yourself wondering, what could a captured boy possibly pray for? A rescue mission? A miracle? A lifetime supply of chocolate? Perhaps he just asks for a moment when he could have all that stale bread turned into a gourmet feast. Yet, his heart beats to a different rhythm. He prays not merely for himself, but for his entire kingdom. Because, believe it or not, this boy has grand dreams that stretch beyond his dungeon walls, like an artist imagining a masterpiece before a blank canvas. He wants freedom, not just for himself, but for everyone who shares the burden of their cruel king's iron fist. As the boy sits there, the darkness of the dungeon slowly gives way to a radiant glow from within. Picture him, allowing the voice of his faith to fill the cold stone room. The glimmers of his hope swirl around him, creating an aura brighter than your uncle's disco ball at last year's wedding reunion. His whispers become pleas that carry on the wind, like a song sung by the birds at dawn. "Dear Allah," he speaks softly, "if only there were a way for my people to feel the weight of chains lifted from their shoulders. If only I could see laughter ignite where once there was sorrow." What's this? Could his voice, though muffled by the dreary stones, somehow permeate through the walls? Perhaps travel to a heart in despair? On the outside, the kingdom broils in chaos. Rumors dance like mischievous fireflies in the air about a boy's courage. making waves more unpredictable than your cat's bedtime quirks. Villagers murmur, "Did you hear about the boy? The one who spoke truth to the king?" They look at each other as if they've just discovered a new flavor of tea that's both bold and exquisite. And there he is again, our young hero practicing invisible oratory skills, preparing to deliver a speech that will resonate throughout history. The irony, my friends, is that while he can hardly breathe in this moldy, murky dungeon, he's beginning to understand how much his voice carries in the hearts of his people. It's like discovering that your old sneakers could actually be stylish after all. Each clank of his chains serves not as a reminder of torment, but as a beat, like the rhythm of a song, and he wears it proudly. "If I'm going to be bound," he muses with a boyish grin, despite his grim reality, "I might as well make the best of it. Let's turn these chains into a symphony for freedom." That unseen audience of cockroaches and rats couldn't be luckier to hear his opera of liberation. And so, amidst the chaos, the boy realizes that the dungeon, with its oppressive walls, cannot cage his spirit. In contrast, it fuels his quest to ignite the flames of hope within. With each fervent prayer, he creates a bridge of light wide enough for freedom to traverse. He knows, without a doubt, that his sacrifice expected of him can mark the turning point for a kingdom desperate for salvation. So, dear listeners, let us reflect. In times of solitude and despair, do we muster our inner light? Our boy here reveals to us that despair can be transformed into determination. His call to the heavens creates vibrations that might just echo back with divine support. Even amid darkness, we can become the flicker of inspiration needed in the lives of ourselves and those around us. As our story unfolds, may we carry forward the boy's lesson, that faith can indeed illuminate the darkest corners, and perhaps inspire us all to perform our own acts of courage, no matter how small. And with that, dear friends, we meander further into this enchanting tale that stirs the heart and encourages us to dream, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. Hold tight as we continue to unveil the artistry of our young boy's resilience, a beacon of hope lighting the way for an entire kingdom. Stay tuned as we weave through the next chapters, and may the light of faith soar ever higher. Chapter 16. Unyielding Resolve in the Darkness. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we tread deeper into an underground world that might as well have been designed by a particularly sadistic architect who was really into the concept of mood lighting turned on its head. Specifically, the kind of lighting where the only warmth is the fiery rage of a boy determined to liberate a kingdom. Imagine waking up in a dank little hole in the earth where the air smells like 5-day-old gym socks mixed with an unfortunate whiff of regret. Yes, that's right. Our protagonist is still tucked away in what amounts to the world's worst vacation spot, and you thought your last hotel experience was a nightmare. In this pit of despair, our young hero, the definition of courage with the maturity of a wise tortoise, sits with a resolve harder than that one piece of stale bread he had for dinner. Beats of anguish echo around him like a chorus of sad frogs. But as you take a moment to visualize this, he is not broken. Oh no. He's like a sprightly daisy poking through a cracked sidewalk in the middle of a concrete jungle. With each passing day, the shadows grow denser, heavier, draping themselves over his spirit like an old quilt you found at a yard sale. Thick, musty, but quite cozy in its own way. What is it about darkness that brings our boy into the light, you ask? Well, he maintains this impeccable sense of humor that would have him putting stand-up comedians to shame. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because he wasn't tangled up in rusty chains like me. But here's the wondrous essence of the unyielding resolve. Despite the hard knocks, the beatings, and harsh interrogations that would make even the most seasoned warriors try to locate a safe space under a blanket, our boy isn't daunted. Think of it as if he's caught in a video game, the player cycling through near-death experiences, but somehow, instead of spamming the restart button, he finds an invisible shield, his unwavering faith. Picture this. Upon the tethered chains binding him,
the boy finds his prayers rising up in the air, mingling with the dank and fetid air of despair. Each prayer plucks at the cosmic strings like an unseen maestro conducting a symphony of faith. And guess what? With each note, the universe takes heed, transitioning from an ominous tempest to a rather promising crescendo. So what's a boy to do in the face of unbearable odds? Allow me to paint a scenario for you. Maybe he's thinking, if only I had an escape plan like in one of those gloriously adventurous movies. Yet, instead of sitting idly, he conjures vibrant images in his mind. Fields of lush greenery, his people dancing, and laughter spilling from their lips like the most delightful of beverages. He imagines freedom not just for himself, but for the entire kingdom. A starry vision fueled by genuine naivete, or, dare I say, divine intellect? Days stretch into
What feels like an eternity. In the dingy darkness, the hunger gnaws at him like a persistent little mouse that just won't pipe down. Yet in the corners of his mind, sweet morsels of hope cook up a feast of possibility. Is there something in the energy of his faith that sparks a tiny flicker of divine mercy? For miraculous things happen in the darkest of places. Let's pause for a moment, friends, and hear how really ridiculous the conditions are. Imagine dining at a fine restaurant, except this place is infested with more unpleasant characters than the last family reunion you attended. You get served a plate of stale bread and a side helping of regret. But our boy? He would be dreaming of feasts fit for a king, not waiting for someone to come and inappropriately ask him, "Can you pass the salt, please?" And so, under the relentless siege of circumstances meant to break him, he humbly praises Allah, fervently whispering, "Dear Allah, I hope the world outside feels the chains of suffering break apart like a day-old bagel." One could almost hear the angels chuckling in delight. Within those cold stone walls, a warm light begins to emerge. It's as if, with each compassionate thought drawn from divine love, the very stones flicker with shimmering hope. The dungeon, the setting for his grand adventures, becomes the womb of his resurrection. No rats are going to steal his dreams about liberation. No, friends. Rather, they serve as the most unlikely audience for his quiet conspiracy against gloom. With every fleeting moment, this boy, once lost in despair, grows more formidable, stronger than the mightiest of fortresses. Even the guards outside might begin to wonder if there's a secret friendship brewing between the boy and the heavens. Could it be? Just as heckling whispers pass through the wind, do they feel those tiny tremors of hope radiating from the dungeon's fetid depths? Say what you will, but that unseen divine shield begins to cast its glow over our hero, reinforcing him with the all-important realization that sacrifice can indeed liberate. And as our boy continues his mission, surrounded by echoes of shackling chains, he stands defiantly in his own imagination, gesturing like a conductor of change, plotting the harmonious escape of his kingdom. So, as fate would have it, dear listeners, let's take inspiration from this little powerhouse of faith. In the darkest of hours, are we willing to channel a bit of that boyish magic? Can we not transform our despair into determination, forging beautiful connections and dreams that pave the path to freedom? As we navigate through our own life prisons, may we always find a spark deep within, wresting the light out of the shadowy corners as we humbly appreciate the layers of our existence. For who knows, much like our brave boy, sometimes the most monumental changes come wrapped in the ugliest of disguises. And with a whisper of hope, let's prepare ourselves for The next twist in this tale. Hold tight as we journey into the unfolding destiny of our young hero, a lesson that may very well echo through the fabric of time. Chapter 17. Whispers of Hope and Courage. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we delve into a time blanketed in uncertainty and the pungent odor of stale bread, where the only warmth one might find is from a boy whose spirit burns brighter than the fiercest of desert suns. That's right, we're continuing our journey in the year 500 CE, a time when the only thing thicker than the air was the tension among the kingdom's oppressed citizens, desperately waiting for a glimmer of hope. Imagine a kingdom more downtrodden than a soggy piece of toast, because let's be honest, who even likes soggy toast? As we dive into our tale, get ready for a mix of laughter, resilience, and just the right amount of suspense to keep you gleaning from the edges of your pillows. So, dear friends, as you settle in, give your lights a soft dim. Not too dim so you don't start believing in ghost stories. Keep a cozy blanket nearby, and maybe even grab a snack, something that doesn't taste like despair. Remember, you can leave your comments below, but only if you genuinely feel like it. Only good vibes here. Now, let's start imagining what life must have been like back then. Have you ever wondered if you could find a decent Wi-Fi signal in the middle of the desert? Probably not. And what about using a long stick to stir your morning coffee? Quite the workout. Yet, I digress. Let's not even get started on fashion. Trust me, wearing sandals made from twigs every day? No thank you. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 500 CE, right in the heart of a kingdom whose hope was dwindling faster than a flickering candle. And there you are, among the whispering crowds, battling the harsh realities of life. The air around you is thick with despair, like a poorly made soup, and you can almost hear the echoes of grumbling stomachs and sighs of discouragement. But wait, what's this? Among the oppressed, there's a spark, a boy whose resilience is as contagious as a yawn on a lazy afternoon. His spirit, buoyant and bright, cuts through the darkness like a sword of light. And while the rest of the kingdom is mired in anguish, this young lad, the embodiment of hope, begins to stir the hearts of the downtrodden. Can you see him? With those wide eyes, bright as a full moon reflecting on calm waters, he stands in the midst of the crowd, regaling them with tales of courage and faith. With an audience as eager as cats at a fish market, they lean in, their ears perked like attentive little bunnies. "What do you say?" he asks, his voice gripping the attention of everyone present. "If we stop letting the insatiable greed of our kings dictate our lives, what if we rise together?" The murmurings among the crowd are as thrilling as the latest gossip from the bazaar. "You see," he continues, "if we unite, the chains that bind us could shatter like old pottery. And just like that, we could become free." The crowd begins to feel that flicker of hope igniting deep within their chests. A brainwave more powerful than an unexpected sunset. Could this truly be their moment of liberation? It's as if a cosmic joke is unfolding, prompting laughter mixed with tears. Suddenly, life doesn't seem so stale. Rather, a bouquet of wildflowers waving in a gentle breeze, shaking off the dust of hopelessness. One elder, sporting a beard as long as his wisdom, nods approvingly. "You're right, lad. But how can we change the hearts of men as hard as old rock?" And there it is, friends, the essence of the moment. With a twinkle in his eye sharper than a needle, our boy replies, "Why, with faith stronger than the king's finest armor, each one of us is like the mighty date palm, both resilient and unyielding, bending only to the storms of life." As he speaks, the laughter and hope ripple through the crowd, much like a refreshing breeze slicing through the stifling heat. The conversation shifts from despair to laughter, the kind that resonates soul deep. Visions of freedom glimmer in the corner of their eyes as they catch glimpses of fields blooming with joy and laughter, something that has been lost for far too long. "Now tell me," the lad continues, his voice rising like the dawn's chorus, "who among you is willing to go hungry one more night if it means a chance at freedom for our children, for our land?" The crowd erupts in clapping and faint gasps, eyes glistening, hearts racing. It's the kind of enthusiasm that could launch 1,000 ships, or, well, a dozen cats at the very least. They share chuckles among themselves about how even the birds seem to join their resolve with a surprisingly harmonious chirp.
almost conducting their own choir of living hope. If I could teach the birds to fly messages of change, I'd have a fleet of good news, the boy laughs as the crowd's spirits rise higher. Hours fall like dust beneath them as they gather together in whispers, their momentum fueled by the boy's fervor. Images of old kings and their oppressive rules become silhouettes in the tapestry of their dreams. "A plan! We need a plan!" someone shouts, echoing the heartbeats of the crowd. And just like that, our boy, once shackled in despair, now stands not only as a beacon of hope, but as an unlikely leader, embodying not just courage, but the sweet essence of faith. Little did they know, this moment would mark the turning point, leading them all, not just to battle, but to liberation, each set of hands grasping the dreams set forth. As whispers fill the air, creating a wave of solidarity akin to the shifting sands of their desert home, you can sense a tide rising against the oppressors. The divine, their very faith, begins to unveil itself in the sheer bravery of a boy whose dreams flicker like the brightest of stars against the infinite night. So, as dreams take flight, dear listeners, awaken your spirits within too. Like our brave boy, when we face our
Struggles and refuse to be shackled by despair, incredible transformations await. And with that, let's prepare ourselves for the next monumental leap in this tale. A tale of courage that continues to ripple through history, invoking the divine essence in our hearts. Chapter 18. A Moment of Bitter Irony. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Have you ever found yourself in a situation so embarrassing you'd rather wear a pomegranate on your head than face those around you? Well, hold on to your cushions, because tonight we dive into a moment worse than serving rice with rocks instead of a fresh, steaming biryani. Imagine a grand palace filled with servants, treasures, and an awful lot of bad decisions. Welcome back to our saga in 500 CE, a time when kings had more arrogance than a peacock at a fashion show. Tonight's tale unfolds in the bustling marketplace, where unfortunate choices lead to spectacular public spectacle. But first, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you find our little escapade amusing. Only if you enjoy it, of course. No pressure. Now, dim those lights, settle into your bed like a burrito wrapped in blankets, and let's embark on this heroic history together. Have you ever thought about what type of snack would be acceptable during a public execution? I mean, is popcorn too much? Maybe a kebab? Those are tough decisions. And you know what's even tougher? Trying to unwrap a candy bar quietly while the kingdom's most heart-wrenching moment plays out in front of your nose. So, ready or not, you've just woken up in 500 CE, right in the middle of a furious royal ruling hotter than the sun on a desert afternoon. Now, picture your surroundings. The air is thick with tension, like the minutes before a surprise family gathering. Let's talk about the marketplace, shall we? It's a melange of smells, spices mingling with sweat, and that one guy who hasn't bathed since last month. Oh yes, times are tough. In the center, standing like a lonely cactus, is our young hero, hands bound and eyes reflecting the fierce spirit that couldn't be snuffed out, even in the face of dire punishment. The king, a figure as imposing as a sandstorm, has decided to make an example of him, but he could have picked a better theater for this tragic performance. Now, bodies jostle, people push and shove, craning necks like curious giraffes at a watering hole. It is the kind of spectacle that you just can't look away from. The marketplace, despite its grim atmosphere, buzzes with strained, transient excitement. Did you bring the kids? Oh, they'll remember this for years. You could almost hear someone remark. Ah, the irony of family bonding over anguish. With an extravagant flourish, the king, clad in silk so bright it could blind you, gestures flamboyantly. "Behold!" he bellowed, with a flourish that would impress even the most seasoned actors. "A warning! A lesson!" As strong soldiers gather like bees to honey, the atmosphere thickens. and you can almost feel the collective gasp echoing through the streets. As the first whip cracks through the air, it echoes like a poorly timed drum roll. Tension transforms to sheer horror as the crowd's laughter turns into anxious murmurs. "What is this? Some kind of twisted comedy?" one brave soul murmurs, shaking their head. Oh, dark humor. You're never too far away, are you? Our boy stands strong, a beacon of defiance, refusing to let despair touch him. You might think this an unbearable sight, kind of like biting into an overly ripe banana, expecting a burst of sweetness only to find mush. And yet, he gazes out at the crowd. "Why are we here? To watch me suffer?" His voice rings out, and you almost imagine it reaching the heavens like smoke signals. Shouldn't we instead advocate for freedom, for unity, for jelly-filled donuts? Okay, maybe that last one is a stretch. Don't you wish they had pastries back then? With every lash, the once horrified crowd begins to fill with flickers of something akin to courage. They start murmuring amongst themselves, feeling that tingling sensation of rebellion. Could they be witnessing the birth of a movement? Or at the very least, a really awkward moment? "Hey, is it just me? Or is this the worst kind of family dinner?" Someone quips, and you can't help but stifle a chuckle. Sweat drips from brows, hearts race as the young boy holds steady, determined and unyielding in spirit. Each lash is a testament not to his weakness, but to his unbreakable resolve. In a moment of bitter irony, the king thought he could crush a spirit. Yet unbeknownst to him, he actually kindled hope within a fractured kingdom. It's almost poetic, like watching a pair of sandals trying to navigate an underground river, bizarre, yet utterly captivating. The crowd now feels a surge of something powerful. Call it friendship, community, or that lovely little thing we call social awareness. They lean into one another, hearts beating in rhythm, unaware that today they stand on the brink of something magnificent, something they've long desired, a rebellion sparked by their young hero's desperate resolve. Isn't it funny how the king tried to quash that very hope? The sheer audacity of it. And how ironic that amid his tyrannical reign, it's his own tyranny that would rally others. A cosmic balancing act that defies all odds. So, as the soldiers whip him, they unwittingly sow the seeds of change. They do not know that their fists are merely instruments of metamorphosis. This boy's sacrifice paints a prophecy that no one can deny. And while life might taste just like yesterday's leftovers, it also carries the promise of change, potential for unity. A lesson hidden beneath a heavy layer of irony. As the sun sets behind the towering spires of a once mighty kingdom, we too feel the weight of history shift beneath us. So, tuck in tight, for this isn't the end, dear listeners. Oh no, it's merely the beginning of a battle cry that will echo across the ages. Chapter 19. Offering Silent Prayers Amidst a Storm. Salam alaikum, dear friends. Grab your coziest blanket, yes, the one that's softer than a kitten's ear, and let me take you on a delightful journey to a time when kings ruled with iron fists and subjects had hearts of gold, heavier than a sack of flour. So tonight, we're diving into the captivating life of a young boy standing up for his beliefs way back in 500 CE, a time when getting caught in a thunderstorm was hardly the worst thing that could happen to you. Picture this. You wake up in the midst of an ancient kingdom, only to find yourself at the center of a public spectacle that could rival today's most outlandish reality TV shows. The air is thick with anticipation, like waiting for your favorite sitcom to come back after a cliffhanger. But instead of throwing popcorn, you find yourself clutching a prayer rug, watching history unfold right before your eyes. Ever wondered what it's like to stand courageously amid chaos? Or how about trying to quell the butterflies in your stomach while a crowd stares at you like it's the world's longest awkward family dinner? What's worse, getting licked by a flaming goat or facing an angry king? Honestly,
Those moments of sheer dread sometimes feel so relatable. And here's a fun thought. Is it acceptable to bring snacks to a public execution, or is that just a tad too dark? Well, congratulations. You've just stepped into 500 CE, where the sun beats down as if it's in competition with a furnace, and a tiny marketplace thrums with life. The aroma of spices wafts through the air, mixing with fragrances from unsold produce, like a soup that's not quite finished but still makes you curious. Yes, that's right. You're in the midst of a kingdom on the brink of change. In the marketplace, a boy stands tall, his arms bound but spirit unyielding. Imagine him, hands tied like an exaggerated mime caught in a silent act, yet his gaze cuts through the crowd with the ferocity of a lion on a mission to reclaim its territory. There he is, our young hero, eyes clear and bright, despite the dread washing over those observing him. You can hear the whispers in the crowd, punctuated by nervous laughter like a mix of a comedy club and a high-stakes drama. Is this really necessary? Or should we start drafting the How to Watch an Execution for Dummies handbook? Now, when the king makes his grand entrance, think of the most theatrical reality show host you can imagine. A human billboard for authority, demanding attention. The frills on his garments glint in the sunlight, blinding enough to make you second-guess your sunscreen application. "Let it be known," he bellows, his voice echoing like an oversold concert tied down by an acoustic guitar. "This boy shall serve as a cautionary tale." With a flick of his wrist, the first lash cuts through the air like the universe's worst drum roll, and the crowds. Laughter fades, morphing into gasps and murmurs, a swirling cacophony of disbelief and dread. The atmosphere thickens, like a stew left too long on the fire. Attention shifts, anticipation hangs heavier than an unanswered riddle. And yet, our boy, rather than letting despair seep into his heart, stands there as steadfast as a maple tree in winter, roots dug deep and branches enduring all. With each strike, he offers a silent prayer, a litany of resilience that seems to transform the air around him. What if the king isn't as powerful as he thinks? One member of the crowd wonders. Maybe we all just needed a little courage sprinkled on top of our regular fear. His silence speaks volumes, echoing through the hearts of spectators like a gentle breeze rustling through a field of wildflowers. The crowd, once mere onlookers, now transforms into a collective entity, each heartbeat aligning with his unwavering resolve. You might wonder how it feels to uplift an entire audience, anchoring their spirits through faith, hope, and a dash of humor. It's almost as if they found an underground comedy club in the middle of a tragedy. And then, it happens. Those lashes, intended to break him, seem only to awaken the embers of rebellion within the throng of people. With a surge of courage, you begin to notice whispers erupt like popcorn in a microwave, murmurs turning into discussions and debates. Is it just me, or is the king really overdoing it? Someone comically posits. I didn't sign up for a horror film, I came for the popcorn. Each lash becomes a call to action, a rallying cry that ignites the spirit of the crowd. They lean into one another, shoulders brushing, a sense of solidarity fired up by a boy's sacrifice. A moment darker than garden gnomes, yet brighter than the hope they begin to feel. Yes, change is brewing right there in the heat of the marketplace, where irony dances alongside bravery, and rebellion emerges like a sprout through hard soil. As the sun dips lower, shadowing their hero's form against the baked earth, a new chapter begins. Not just in that young boy's life, but in the lives of others who stand pinched by fear, yet ignited by courage. In a moment brimming with irony, the king's attempts to suppress hope only stoke the flames of a movement, led by a boy whose decision to bear suffering becomes a beacon, a call for freedom, a divine echo rippling through the ages. So, as evening falls, imagine that boy, hands still bound, but now ill-gloved by the force of change. A son to a nation yearning to rise,
beloved and reminded that hope, despite being cruelly tested, can never truly be silenced. Rest easy, for we've traveled back in time, and we still have tales yet untold, waiting to illuminate the pathways we share. Through every hardship endured, remember that even from the darkest moments, the seeds of hope will always sprout anew, and laughter can sometimes be found even amidst the heaviest of trials. Stay close, dear friends, for the journey has just begun. Chapter 20. A descent into darkness and ferocity. Imagine the scene. The sun sinks lower in the sky, its warm embrace fading as night approaches, leaving the air cooler and tinged with an impending sense of adventure, or dread. Now, picture our young hero, still tied but standing firm against a backdrop of gasping onlookers. Have you ever been caught in a moment so surreal that you wonder if it's happening to you or a character in the latest binge-worthy thriller? Well, congratulations. You're about to witness something akin to a plot twist that even the most daring filmmakers would hesitate to script. So, what happens next? As the king's ominous decree echoed through the air, a collective chill rippled through the crowd, a chill far colder than a popsicle left in the freezer for too long. The royal order was clear. Throw the boy into the pit. What pit, you ask? Not just any pit. This was a dark, gaping chasm filled with ferocious beasts, hungry and ready to pounce. If there were a Yelp review for this place, it would surely have a 2-star rating. Great atmosphere, but the customer service? A total bite. As the guards marched forward, something in the air shifted, like an accidentally popped balloon at a birthday party. The crowd gasped as the boy, once so defiant, found himself at the edge of this pit, a spectacle more disconcerting than a cat dressed in a tuxedo. The guards' hands gripped him tightly, as if they were trying to prevent him from escaping an embarrassing family photo. What do you do when life throws you into the jaws of danger? Do you flail about like a fish out of water, or do you channel your inner superhero? This boy, however unlikely, chose the latter. As the crowd held its breath, a smack of humor broke through the tension. Could it be? A faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips, as if he had just heard the best punchline of his life. Was he mocking fate, or simply gearing up for his best stunt yet? As he was pushed closer to the edge, the earth beneath him crumbled like last week's leftover birthday cake. Was the king really this overdramatic, you might wonder? The king must have had something against personal development, because throwing a boy to the beasts? That was a harsh way to teach a lesson. It was like teaching someone to swim by tossing them into the deep end without flotation devices. Not exactly the best method, right? The people in the crowd were in a state of disbelief, more shocked than you'd be if you found out your neighbor owned a pet dinosaur. "Didn't we just have a revolution against barbarity?" whispered a villager, slapping his forehead with an intensity that would make any cartoon character proud. Should we order popcorn for this show, or just wait for the screams to start? And then, just as the guards teetered on the edge of absurdity, something miraculous happened. Our young hero stood right at the pit's edge, a momentary pause deepening like the slow crescendo of a haunting melody. He looked down, his heart racing like a rabbit chased by an overzealous hound. Instead of seeing the wild beasts ready to pounce, he caught a glint of determination in his own eyes, a fire igniting from somewhere deeper than fear. "Perhaps the beasts are more afraid of me than I am of them," he thought, just before plummeting into the darkness. Now, didn't that sound like a plot twist worthy of a dramatic sitcom? Pushed by despair, yet buoyed by a flicker of laughter, it became clear that this wasn't drowning fish out of water. This was a game of quick-witted survival. Once inside the pit, the darkness enveloped him like an old, musky blanket that hasn't quite seen a washing machine. The roars of the wild beasts echoed menacingly, but strangely, within the chaos, he could hear snickers. Yes, snickers. Perhaps the beasts weren't as menacing as they seemed, their growls accompanied by the very air, stale and stiff, clinging to the walls like an awkward first date silence.
Amidst the cacophony, our boy suddenly realized that in this abyss of despair, he held power. Who knew that facing beasts meant tackling the beasts within? Sounding like a motivational speaker in a questionable self-help seminar, he stood tall. The audience above, locked in tension with bated breath, could almost hear the audible slap of the boy's resolve. "Bring it on," he seemed to declare as he readied himself to embrace whatever would come next. The eternal struggle between fear and bravery is a classic tale we all recognize. After all, haven't we all faced our own pits of ferocity in life? Like attempting to give a public speech without a safety net, or trying to eat spaghetti on a date without wearing a bib. Just when you thought the story couldn't take another twist, it did. As the beasts approached, more curious than ferocious, our hero chuckled inwardly. Was this really where he would claim his victory? The boy had some confidence to spare, and something told me this darkness was simply a stage, one he was primed to strut upon. So, dear friends, as we peer into this surreal darkness, let's turn our gaze towards the light that flickers within us all. In moments of despair, perhaps laughter is the truest power, a reminder that life, even when wild and unpredictable, often unexpectedly unfolds into something worth witnessing. Rest assured, as our tale continues beneath the surface, where even the most daunting challenges may lead to the most whimsical of outcomes. Stay close, for the adventures are just beginning, like a theme song that you can't help but hum long after the show's ended.
Chapter 21. A Divine Encounter. Imagine, if you will, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting a golden hue upon the landscape, as if nature is painting a masterpiece exclusively for your eyes. An artist's touch that almost makes you forget the day's worries. Tonight, we find ourselves in a moment more surprising than finding out your neighbor has a pet parrot that recites Shakespeare sonnets. Welcome to a time when the sun slips gently behind the horizon, and a boy finds himself amidst ferocious beasts. And just like you, he's a bit apprehensive. As you settle into your cozy nook, with pillows positioned just so, let's contemplate absurdities of this universe together. Have you ever wondered how one copes with being surrounded by wild animals while everyone's watching, aware that a misstep could lead to a rather rash ending? What would you wear to a showdown with lions? You know, just in case it ended up on Instagram later. And, if you could choose, would you rather have a lion's mane or an oversized feather boa in this scenario? Imagine the whispers of the crowd, their murmurs rising and falling like waves against a rocky shore. They hang on the edge of disbelief, witnessing a scene more surreal than a dream where your high school math teacher becomes a dance champion. They've never quite seen anything like this. A brave boy daring to kneel in prayer while savage beasts loom nearby, teeth bared and ready. Was it bravery or lunacy? Perhaps a bit of both, the boy thinks. You can almost hear his internal monologue, the slightly snarky tone that resonates so well in our modern age. Well, here I am, a humble lad, knee-deep in a wild animal reality show, and let me tell you, the stakes are high, higher than the prices at the latest smartphone launch event. As he kneels, the air grows still, like a meme waiting for the perfect punchline. It's as if the world holds its breath, time stretching like freshly pulled mozzarella cheese. The beasts, mighty and fierce, now soften, splayed like lazy lions on a sun-soaked rock. Who needs animal trainers when divine presence works wonders? Right before your eyes, the unthinkable occurs. The crowd gasps collectively, all wearing expressions that combine astonishment and something akin to relief, as if they'd just released a long-held breath after a particularly grueling yoga class. Did you see that? Incredulous gasps ripple through the throngs, a mix of disbelief and hope, smoother than an overenthusiastic toddler on a slip-and-slide. How can this happen? A villager murmurs, scratching his head as if trying to dislodge bits of logical reasoning tangled in his mind. Someone has to be pulling strings. Maybe the boy is actually a magician? There's nothing wrong with a little hope, after all. A chance that even the wildest of dreams could be real. You observe as the beasts shuffle uncharacteristically, lulled by an unseen hand, snuggled down like overly comfortable house cats. Perhaps they were enchanted by the boy's quiet whispers of prayer. Or maybe they simply thought, this seems like a prime time for a nap. Who could blame them? After all, everyone enjoys a lazy afternoon, even if they're a lion with a reputation to uphold. Does this mean I'm free? He muses within, a chuckle brimming at the corners of his mouth as he wipes imaginary sweat from his brow. He can't help but feel like the lead in an epic movie, though ideally he'd prefer a less perilous plot twist. The crowd gradually starts to settle, shaken belief turning to awe, the kind that could fill a stadium. Conversations transform into harsh whispers of reverence, creating ripples of newfound faith. It's deeper than the lowest valley, stretching far beyond fear, anchoring itself into the very heart of what it means to believe in the extraordinary. Look, even the fiercest of animals are taking notes, a townsman exclaims, his voice comically serious, eliciting laughter in the midst of the absurdity. Perhaps they are contemplating their own life choices. Could I trade this in for a less stressful gig? With this serene shift, the boy rises, still surrounded by the largest living room pets one could ever dream of. He walks among them, a delicate dance of trust, mutual respect, weaving an invisible thread between human and beast, the kind that could easily end up as a viral video. As you gently drift deeper into this world, lulled by harmonic connectivity and extensive laughter in the face of danger, know that stories like these showcase that even in times that seemed the direst, extraordinary things can unfold. Who knew faith could tame beasts and turn foes into friends? Stay with us, for the journey is far from over. Keep drifting along, as there are more adventures waiting just around the corner, ready to unfold like the petals of a blossoming flower, each layer revealing something beautiful, something transformative. Behind each prayer lies a story, an intertwining of fate and divine orchestration, capturing a moment that could change an entire kingdom. And there it is again, the delightful spark of irony weaving through the air as our young hero realizes that what appeared to be a deadly showdown turned into the foundation of liberation for an entire land. So there you have it, dear listener, a tale where courage meets the divine and humor waltzes playfully among lions. Doesn't it just make you reconsider your own challenges in life? As you lay down to rest, take a moment to embrace what you've learned tonight. Who needs lions or ferocious beasts in the wild when we all wrestle with our daily dramas? As you close your eyes, reflect on the untamed spirit within you that remains untethered to fear. And remember, even the wildest situations can lead to unexpected harmony. Sweet dreams, and may your path be as vibrant as the tales we share. If you enjoyed this bedtime story, consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing for more delightful adventures, and perhaps sharing your thoughts in the comments, though we hope they don't sound like lion roars. Until we meet again, let your dreams run wild and free. Chapter 22. The Final Sacrifice. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight, we find ourselves in a moment more gripping than that time you accidentally replied all to an office email, but without the subsequent awkward stares. We're diving into a tale that sweeps you up like a kid in a candy store, but this candy is a sweet sacrifice with a hint of bravery and a sprinkle of divine intervention. The sun is just kissing the horizon, casting a warm golden glow across the land, much like the way sunlight artfully dodges every curtain in your house whenever you're trying to sleep in on a Saturday. Before we embark on this journey, let's get comfy. You know the drill. Snuggle into your blanket like a burrito from your favorite takeout joint, dim those lights, and maybe set your fan to a delightful breeze. Are you ready to step into the past? Well, let me tickle your imagination with some curious thoughts. What do you think a king wears when he's about to make a life and death decision? Perhaps something with more sparkle than a disco ball, or just a plain robe with a suspiciously large stain from dinner. And what if you were the king? Would you still order a beloved boy to be cast off a cliff? Or would you instead opt for a more peaceful solution, like a group hug? Imagine the townsfolk. What would they be whispering? Have you heard? They say the king's just had a really bad day. Again. Or, I wouldn't trust that guy with my lunch money, let alone my life. Picture a royal decree lit by torches, where they read about sacrifices that sound more like the plot of a sitcom than an actual event. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 500 CE, where the air smells of spices, and the tension hangs heavier than your friend's expectation for you to remember their birthday. Welcome to a kingdom on the brink of chaos, where dreams of liberation sit atop a cliff, precariously balanced on the shoulders of a brave, young boy. Now, let's pivot to our heartfelt hero, a boy with a spirit as bright as the sun and a mind sharper than the dagger that adorns the king's belt. He stands at the edge of destiny, quite literally at the brink of a high cliff that plummets into the frothy embrace of the sea below. Picture him radiating an aura of calm, as if he's just been given the world's most comforting blanket after a long day. The onlookers gather, their faces clouded with disbelief, mingling hope with regret, as if they had just found out that their favorite ice cream flavor has been discontinued. Is he really going to jump? They murmur, less like a choir of frightened townsfolk and more like a confused audience watching a new reality show. What will happen next? Will he find a way to save the kingdom, or will he become an unfortunate viral meme? As the boy walks toward the cliff, he's led not by chains or ropes, but by a predestined thread weaving through the fabric of his fate. The sun dips lower, casting a dramatic orange and pink hue across the water that almost looks like it could be the world's largest serving of fruit salad. Suddenly, the king, a figure dressed in regal robes that seem more suited for a festival than a dire moment, issues the command for the boy to be tied to a stone. You can almost hear a collective gasp from the crowd, full of confusion, akin to when you open a surprise sandwich only to find it filled with pickles instead of peanut butter. "Hold on," you might want to shout. Why not trust the boy a little longer? Maybe he's just a misunderstood genius with a flair for dramatic flair. But, alas, kings have their whims, and this one is no exception. Forgetting that he once adored this boy, his decision seems to hang in the air like an insufferable humidity, too thick to simply hack with a sigh. "I say, let's see if he floats," says one bystander, half joking, as the town debates on whether the cliffside is the best place for a young hero's last performance. The boy, now tied, stands tall and serene, exuding a mixture of confidence and acceptance. Perhaps he's discovered that today's sacrifice could be tomorrow's liberation. As he gazes out at the endless expanse of the sea, a gentle breeze begins to stir. You can almost visualize the salt in the air, intertwined with the whispers of prayer rising from the crowd below like wisps of smoke. The boy speaks not of fear, but of faith, a line reminiscent of bedtime stories where heroes emerge unscathed, or at least significantly happier. "Hey," you might say under your breath, "what if he's the kingdom's real savior?" Well, wouldn't that just be the plot twist of the century? With a dramatic flourish that could rival any Broadway show, the boy takes a deep breath, letting the salty air fill his lungs. He's not just preparing for a dive, he's summoning the better angels of his nature. Each whisper of the onlookers echoes like reverberations of thunder across the valley. As the moment nears, the gravity of his predicament hangs suspended, and a hush falls over the crowd, thick enough to cut with a dull butter knife. No one dared breathe, afraid that even the faintest puff of air might alter the course of destiny about to unfold. But what happens next? Ah, dear listeners, the heart of our story unfolds here, teetering on the brink of the extraordinary. Stay with us as we plunge deeper into this tale of courage, sacrifice, and unforeseen redemption. Will he leap into oblivion?
Or will a twist of fate unveil a new dawn for the kingdom? You ponder as you drift softly into the dreamscape of history. And remember, even the most precarious circumstances can lead to miraculous outcomes. Breathe in, let go of your worries, and continue this journey of transformation, intertwined with divine purpose.
Chapter 23, The Divine Wind. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Picture this. It's a fine evening, the kind that wraps around you like a soft shawl your grandma knitted when you were 5, only to find out that the yarn might have come from a particularly disgruntled llama. Tonight's tale unveils a moment that is truly wilder than your cousin's attempts at cooking. Yes, we're diving into the heart-pounding saga of a young boy standing on the cliff of destiny, poised between fear and formidable faith. And, goodness knows, what happens next is as jaw-dropping as your neighbor's karaoke session gone rogue. Before we tumble down this enchanting rabbit hole of history, let's get cozy. Dim those lights, maybe throw on a fan, and whisper sweet nothings to your blanket as you curl up like a contented cat. Have you ever wondered what a wind gust feels like when you're already suspended in midair? Perhaps it's like being caught in a surprise gust while attempting to look cool in front of your crush. Or maybe like your buddy trying to flip a pancake but ending up tossing it onto the ceiling instead. Imagine, just for a moment, what it must be like to pray with the wind, your ultimate wingman rushing to your rescue against the odds. Now, strap in, dear friends. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 500 CE, where the weather is as unpredictable as your morning coffee order. You find yourself in a kingdom more tangled than your charging cables, where heroes are born, sacrifices are made, and cliffside dramas unfold like a nightly soap opera. Let's talk about our valiant protagonist, a boy whose spirit shines brighter than a bedazzled disco ball, standing fearlessly at the edge of a towering cliff. The townsfolk below gawk at him, their expressions a mix of disbelief and anticipation, reminiscent of when a new flavor of chips hits the stores. Will he jump? Will he free the kingdom from oppression? Or will this go down as the most awkward history class in the making? As the sun dipped low, spilling hues of pink and orange that would make any Instagram filter jealous, the boy exhaled softly. He gazed across the churning sea, the waves crashing rhythmically like drums beat by impatient hands. You could almost hear the whispers in the air, prayers balancing between hope and disbelief. Is he really going to do it? They wonder, eyes wide, minds racing like a dog chasing its own tail. Now, imagine a breeze brushing past him, tousling his hair, his own personal assistant, if you will. Hold on a second, you want to shout. Is this wind going to be more helpful than my last few attempts at small talk? But alas, before you can form a witty retort, the boy begins to pray, right there, standing tall and resolute. His faith wrapped around him tighter than a woolly sweater in a sauna. And here comes the twist. Just as the moment of truth arrives, a sudden gust of wind, almost divine in nature, sweeps him up. You know that? Feeling when your chair rolls slightly from under you, and for a heart-stopping second, life seems to hang in the balance? That's exactly what happens, except instead of face-planting onto the rocky shore, the wind cradles him, slowing his fall dramatically, much like how you might slow down your car when a speed bump looms ahead. And then, poof, he lands. It's as if the universe hits a pause button, seamless and gentle, and he plops onto the ground below, unharmed, just like a feather floating down from the heavens. The crowd gasps. Imagine an audience collectively uncovering their jaws from the floor. Cheers erupt, louder than a football stadium during the final moments of a championship match, as they realize this boy isn't just falling, he's soaring in faith. Did you see that? One onlooker hollers, sounding slightly like that enthusiastic person in every movie theater. He's our hero! The emotions can be felt radiating through the air like the smell of fresh cookies wafting through the house. Old women wave their arms as if conducting a symphony. Nobles clutch their pearls,
not sure whether to applaud or call for a royal decree banning cliff jumps. In that instant, the kingdom is liberated from its fears and doubts, as cheers and laughter fill the air like delightful bubbles in a well-shaken soda can. The boy became more than a mere mortal, but a beacon of hope, proving that faith can indeed move mountains, or, in this case, stir the winds of change toward a brighter horizon. As you soak in this marvelous evolution of events, you can't help but realize, perhaps sometimes, all we need is a little wind beneath our wings, paired with that unwavering belief in the divine. And sometimes, just maybe, it's about trusting that even when life pushes us over the edge, there might be a gust of good fortune awaiting us below, with just a sprinkle of faith and a perfect wind. Now, drift gently into that dreamscape where courage meets the whimsical embrace of divine intervention. Remember, dear listener, each day brings its own cliff to leap from, and who knows, the winds of change might just carry you in the right direction. So rest now. Let the soothing waves of this tale wash over you as you slip into a peaceful slumber, filled with visions of courage, camaraderie, and the splendid surprises life has tucked away just around the corner. Sleep well, dear friends. If there's a wind to be had, may it be one filled with promise and delight.
Chapter 24. Arrows and Alchemy in the Arena. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. Tonight's tale is like that one awkward family reunion where your uncle tells that same old joke about the chicken crossing the road. Only this time, the chicken happens to be a hero on the brink of greatness. Imagine a grand arena where nobles sip on overpriced grape juice, while the common folk squeeze into the standing room like sardines in a halal can. Now, let's sprinkle in some tension thicker than your neighbor's lasagna. You know, the one that exploded in the oven and left a tomato-stained crime scene. Get ready for the heart-pounding moments where sacrifice and courage collide like two drunk camels at a wedding. Just as you settle into your cozy nook, adjust your blanket, put that fan on a pleasant breeze, and get your pillow nice and fluffy. Let's ask ourselves some whimsical questions. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand in front of an entire kingdom, knowing they're all waiting for that one decisive moment, while you're just there trying to remember if you left the stove on? Or what about standing between an angry king and a bunch of archers trying to hit a target while holding their breath? It's kind of like finding yourself between a rock and a hard place, only this rock is a very cranky monarch, and that hard place has an awful lot of arrows waiting to fly your way. Now, let me whisk you back to 500 CE, in an era where deciding to wear the fanciest tunic could lead to an argument worthy of a soap opera. Your tunic is more ostentatious than my second cousin's wedding cake. Yes, dear friends, welcome to a kingdom where every decision is as crucial as picking the right fruit at the market, and every gathering is fraught with more suspense than your cat trying to catch the elusive red dot from a laser pointer. So here you are, standing in the massive arena, feeling like a slice of stale bread in a basket of fresh rolls. The air buzzes with anticipation, the scent of roasted lamb wafting through the throngs as you realize you've become the center of attention. Picture nobles flaunting their fine attire, clutching their ornate goblets, and whispering fervently about whom they'd rather see tumble from grace tonight. But little do they know, the boy tied to that crooked stake in the center, yep, that's you, holds the key to a saga that'll echo through history like a long-lost love letter. The atmosphere is electric. You can practically hear the collective heartbeat of the crowd as they gasp and sigh, each breath sending ripples through the tension in the air. Above you, a raven circles, perhaps looking for its own dinner, but now eyeing the feast that may very well be your unfortunate demise. Just my luck, you think. The only time I'm being watched by an audience, and it's not even for my stand-up routine. The king, seated upon his grand throne, is a sight to behold, radiating displeasure. Like a toddler denied their favorite toy. You can tell he relishes this moment,
but perhaps not quite as much as he revels in a delicious mango parfait. It's like he's drawn the short straw in game of life. After all of his battles and missteps, here he is, watching a young boy stand against the archers like a piñata that refuses to break. As the archers line up, their bows taut and steady, you can hear the whispers in the crowd. Will he fly like a feather or fall like a brick? It's a peculiar silence, broken only by the sound of an impatient noble who accidentally spills his drink, causing a cascade of cherry juice to ruin another noble's pristine cape. Karma, perhaps? But alas, we digress. Then comes the moment of reckoning. "Release your arrows!" shouts the captain of the guard, his voice a thunderclap that reverberates through the amphitheater as the arrows slice the air, moving with a swiftness akin to a cat on a hot tin roof. You brace yourself, not for impact, but with an unshakable faith, knowing that you're about to reshape the destiny of a kingdom. It's a wild thought, bound to trigger a chuckle, or perhaps a chuckle and a sneeze, depending on how intense you're feeling. What a turn of events, eh? 1 minute you're worried about how to fold your garments just right, and the next, you're caught in a play of life and death, where the script has been snatched right out of the hands of fate. With each arrow that looms in your direction, there's a flicker, perhaps of hope, fluttering in the hearts of those watching. The very fabric of despair and hope intertwines, creating a tapestry that may very well shift the tides. In this nail-biting scenario, the crowd manifests something magical. As the arrows rush towards you, time seems to slow down. It's like trying to dodge awkward small talk at a holiday party, a moment where nerves dance chaotic pirouettes while something profound unfolds. Will you fall like the last slice of chocolate cake, or stand tall, unyielding as the mountains that cradle the valley? And just when it feels like the end of all dreams, some unforeseen twist, perhaps a gust of wind, maybe your cousin's llama is giving a second performance, who knows, changes everything, shifting the targets, reshaping the journey ahead. Forget the notes on bravery and valiant displays, dear friends, for history is about to witness a boy's triumph unlike any other, a sacrifice that, knowingly or not, casts a shadow of liberation upon an entire kingdom. Hold your breath, for the winds of change are about to scatter the very seeds of hope across barren lands. Now, drift gently into a realm where the echoes of courage and whimsicality linger. Remember, dear listener, within each moment lies a chance to unleash the extraordinary, with just a sprinkle of faith and the cosmic laughter of the universe ringing in our ears. Sleep well, dear friends, and may your dreams be filled with visions of
Gallant adventures, merry laughter, and the unexpected surprises woven into the fabric of our lives. Chapter 25. A bow, a word, and the weight of kings. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. As we continue our journey through this whimsical saga, let us return to that fateful arena where more drama unfolds than at a family wedding. Everyone is on edge, and the suggested dance moves could probably end in disaster. Imagine yourself standing in the heat of a sun-soaked courtyard, the crowd's whispers buzzing like a swarm of bees having a caffeine high. You're not just any bystander, oh no. You're the centerpiece of this extravagant spectacle, surrounded by nobles who possess more elaborate hairstyles than pets, and all while you're caught in quite the pickle. That's right, our boy stands at the center of the arena, tied there, mind you, like an overripe tomato at the farmer's market, just waiting to be thumped. But here's the twist, dear friends. You, yes you, have one chance to shift the tide of this tempestuous tale. Picture this. The ominous king takes his throne, leaning forward as if he's listening to the latest rumor about his royal extended family. Everyone's curious, but no one knows who will crack first. His eyes narrow at you, and you can almost hear the cogs in his brain whirring. If I'm going to pass judgment today, it better be a knockout. Can you say performance anxiety? You clear your throat, perhaps achieving the rare sensation of your voice echoing back to you as if the very stones of the arena are mocking your predicament. "O noble king," you begin, feeling a surge of courage worthy of all the hero tropes you ever read. "If you're going to unleash those arrows, let them fly in the name of the Lord of me." A nearly imperceptible gasp ripples through the crowd. Yes, they just heard you casually reference the divine as if you were discussing last week's falafel recipe. Who knew that the simplest words could shatter their tension-filled silence? The king looks stunned, blinking like a camel caught in a sandstorm. "What? In the name of the Lord of the Boy?" he mutters, more to himself than anyone else. The command feels as foreign to him as using a spoon to herd sheep. His brows furrow in thought. What if there's some truth in this lad's audacity? You notice the archers, lined up like a row of incense sticks, stringing their bows, ready to strike. Awkwardness fills the air thicker than your aunt's jam on toast. It's ridiculous, really. Are these men ready to shoot arrows at a boy who's just trying to save his skin, all because a king is having a hard day? "Come on, king, it's time to show some valor," you declare, and your words taste like honey after being squeezed from the heart of 1,000 blooming daisies. You smile to show bravado, but internally, you're calculating the odds of a swift exit or a career in dodging arrows. Now, imagine being in the king's shoes, or sandals, rather. With each passing moment, the weight of those arrows becomes heavier than the guilt of your uncle for not attending the family reunion he promised he would go to. "All right," he huffs, uncharacteristically irritable. "In the name of the Lord of the Boy." He raises his hand, almost as if trying to hail a taxi named Divine Intervention. A ripple of nervous energy pulses through the crowd. Arrows are poised, expectations are high, and it's all pinned on your insistence. A knot forms in your stomach as you wonder if today's adventure will end in applause or a trip to the afterlife, courtesy of a wayward arrow. The captain of the archers, undoubtedly a man with serious abs and fewer brains than a salad, yells the order. "Release!" he bellows, and suddenly the arrows soar through the air like a bunch of overly enthusiastic pigeons on a sugar high. Time stretches and slows. Tick-tock, tick-tock, each moment suspended like a poorly executed magic trick. As the arrows draw nearer, a flash of faith surges through you, rising like a loaf of bread in the oven, hot, rising, fully alive. You stand tall, heart pounding like a drummer on a caffeine kick, daring to believe that one small boy, with one bold word, might just change everything. The crowd holds its collective breath, almost too still, as if caught in the suspense of a cliffhanger. That series you promised yourself to finish but never quite managed to. And then, something miraculous happens. Just as the arrows are upon you, a gust of wind careens through the courtyard like it's trying to help you out of an embarrassing situation. One of those, "did I leave the iron on?" moments. Only this time, you're hoping the wind has some serious trajectory recalibration skills. Your fate is intermingling with destiny, swirling like that last drop of chocolate syrup left in a bottle. As destiny tips the balance, arrows veer off course, zipping into the crowd, swirling around in a chaotic display reminiscent of a goat at a warm-blooded horse race. Cheers erupt, astonished gasps mingle with thunderous applause. The king's face flushes redder than the last fig on a summer day. Who could have imagined that a little ambience of faith could pivot a kingdom's sorrow into joy? Remember, dear listeners, while nights may seem dark and dreary, within every fiber of existence lies the power to stir an entire kingdom with but a wink, echoing through the annals of history. As the crowd rejoices, you remain grateful, heart brimming with a delightful concoction of valor, absurdity, and divine mercy. So, as you drift off to sleep, ponder this whimsical twist of fate. May your dreams be crowned with courage and sprinkled with the unexpected, like an errant arrow that accidentally leads to your glorious escape. Sleep well, dear friends, and may your nighttime journeys be just as adventurous and enlightening.
Would you like to continue with the next chapters in this saga?
As we bring tonight's journey to a close, take a slow, deep breath and let the echoes of this ancient world settle gently around you. We've wandered through dusty marketplaces ruled by fear, watched a kingdom bend under the weight of a tyrant, and followed a young boy who dared to carry more courage in his heart than most warriors carried in their whole lives. We witnessed near impossible trials, beasts, soldiers, shadows, and doubts. And yet, somehow, even in that harsh and unforgiving age, moments of laughter, kindness, and unexpected grace still managed to break through the cracks. Tonight's story reminds us that people of the past woke each day to uncertainties we can hardly imagine. Their lives were shaped by hunger, danger, and rulers who wielded fear like a weapon. And yet, they endured. They hoped. They resisted despair with faith, with stubborn resilience, and with a belief that even the smallest act, one whispered prayer, one brave step, one quiet sacrifice, could shift the destiny of an entire kingdom. As you lie here now, wrapped in warmth and safety, take a moment to let gratitude drift through you. No beasts wait outside your door. No soldiers march through your streets. No king demands your worship at sunrise. The comforts we rarely notice, soft blankets, steady roofs, clean water, peaceful nights, would have felt like miracles to those who lived centuries before us. So let your body sink deeper into rest. Let your breath grow softer. Let the struggles of the past fade like lantern light at the edge of dream. You've traveled far tonight. You've seen fear overcome by faith, cruelty unraveled by compassion, and darkness pierced by the courage of a single boy. Now, it's your turn to rest. May peace settle over you, gently and completely. Good night.